And welcome to a meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach held Tuesday, May 20th, 2025 at 7 p.m. We'll have a roll call. Councilmember Bendo.
Present.
Councilmember Lester.
Here.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Here.
Vice President Fiamara.
Here.
President Finn.
Present.
Let the record indicate the presence of City Manager Dan Creighton and Corporation Counsel Frank DeCranis. We'll now have a salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening again, everyone. Welcome to our City Council meeting. It's going to be an exciting one, I'm sure. And without any further ado, Dan Creighton will give us the City Manager's report.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. We have 4 public hearings as well as some regular agenda items tonight, so I will try to be brief, but there are a few items to discuss, so I apologize in advance if I get a little long-winded. First, I would like to congratulate the EMS again for the service they provide to the city. They are an invaluable resource to us, and they should be recognized every day of the year, not just this one week. So thank you again to all of them. I'd also like to congratulate the City of Long Beach Arts Council on another successful Porch Fest this past Saturday. In just its 3rd year, this event has quickly become a resident favorite as it showcases dozens of local bands at beautiful homes across the city. The weather and music were both fantastic, which I'm sure helped the event. Hundreds, if not thousands, of residents and visitors really enjoyed the day and are looking forward to it again next year. Again, thank you and congratulations to the Arts Council. This Saturday at 9 a.m., the 2025 beach season officially starts. Lifeguard chairs are up, beach park staff are trained, and summer specials have completed their orientation. We're excited to kick off summer season and wish you and all your family a happy and relaxing season, and a successful season, hopefully. Please adhere to the rules regarding the boardwalk, including dogs and e-bikes, please, and refrain from walking out on the jetties. We are monitoring any online rumors about parties scheduled at the beach, including senior cut days from neighboring school districts. We were serious last year when we stated that we will do everything within our power to hold organizers accountable, and have already reached out to the school districts to try to prevent a repeat of what we encountered last year. The safety of our residents and visitors will always be our #1 priority. Also, Saturday, May 31st, is the 2nd annual Michael Berube Sunset Color Run on the beach at Riverside Boulevard. This is a beautiful, fun event that all are encouraged to attend and support. Registration is required. So if you need more information on it, please visit michaelberubefoundation.org, B-E-R-U-B-E. We will begin our weekend of honoring our nation's fallen heroes at 8 a.m. this Sunday with the 48th Annual City Manager's 10-mile Race to Remember, which is dedicated to the memory of the race founder, Ralph Kaplan. Thank you and good luck to all those running. I encourage community members to cheer the runners on as they honor those lost in defense of our country. At 10 a.m. on Monday, the Memorial Day Parade will start at Ohio Avenue and make its way to City Hall. Thank you, as always, to our Joint Veterans Organization for partnering with the city and the entire community to hold this special event. It is extremely important we recognize and remember the extreme sacrifices individuals have made in defense of our freedoms. Please come out and support our veterans. Lastly, before we go into some budget items, we continue to focus on improving the city's infrastructure. Tonight we will be repaving Park Avenue between Riverside and Edwards Boulevards. Work should be completed by 5 a.m. tomorrow. In the interim, please expect delays this evening and seek an alternate route if that's the way you usually go. With respect to the budget, our team worked extremely hard to maintain or enhance city services while simultaneously minimizing impacts to our taxpayers. We discussed this at the last update, and we will update you at the last City Council meeting, and we will update you on some minor changes suggested by most of the City Council members, which will be included in an errata sheet as well as review the proposed capital plan. I believe this budget again, as mentioned, accomplishes the goal of continuing to provide residents the services they are used to while maintaining the increase under the state's tax cap. While we may dip into the fund balance, we believe the measures to control the budget and increase revenue should minimize any use, if any. But as stated in the last meeting, I will always use the worst-case scenario approach when presenting the budget, so we are always being transparent with our residents who ultimately foot the bill. Budgeting conservatively, we did not include the increased revenues and savings in the proposed budget, as we cannot guarantee they will materialize. However, I have full confidence in the team we have here in City Hall and our union partners throughout the city that will help us be successful, and that we won't have to utilize what we have proposed in this budget from the fund balance. The council has also been in receipt of the proposed budget for nearly 6 weeks and the public for over a month. I have received meaningful input from nearly every council member, and that input informed the errata sheet that will be presented tonight. The errata will further reduce the questioned fund balance usage by approximately 15%, so we are making strides to reduce that. I look forward to the discussion and hopefully approval of the budget tonight. Finally, the capital plan, which was posted to the public site on April 25th, will be discussed tonight. You will see a big increase in the amount planned for the city. There are several reasons for this, and I believe it is necessary. First, it is a plan, and I believe in the past, the capital plan was reactionary rather than forward-looking. We spent a lot of money unnecessarily fixing things that should long ago have been replaced. Roads and buildings have been neglected in the city. I believe, again, in being conservative. I believe in my public works department and aggressively put in the capital plan what I feel we can accomplish. However, all of it may not come to fruition, and some may be pushed into outer years. But if we can push and get it done, I want the public to understand the potential financing that would be needed. Some will be short-term to cover grant projects that will be refunded through grants and be used for working capital until the grants get refunded to us. Others will need long-term debt. The real test will be when we bond for the projects in September and February. That is when the council will actually vote on which projects will move forward and be an impact on the city residents through interest rates, et cetera. So I dragged this on a little longer than I would have liked. So with that much longer than expected city manager report, I'll hand it back over to you, President Finn.
Thank you, Dan. Actually, there was a lot in there, so you were pretty thorough. Love a comprehensive plan when it comes together. Let's go.
Okay. First item this evening is a public hearing for an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding water and water distribution.
Sorry, I got to the day so late and I'm behind. All right, so this first item, the first public hearing, is to amend the Code of Ordinances to increase the water rates. Unfortunately, our water fund is separate from the general fund and must be funded entirely through water rates. The water fund experienced the same increases that we saw at the general fund in pension costs, health care costs, and insurances, as well as some of the capital improvements that are necessary for the water fund. But due to this, we have to increase the water rates again. Not ideal. We raised them last year, and I think this is not a good thing, but I think it's something that's required based on the increases to the water fund that we see, and it's the only way to fund it. So I have Ina here if you have any further questions regarding this item. Actually, for the public hearing. Sorry.
Okay, we'll start with the council. John? Roy?
I guess I direct these to Ina.
Yep, sure. Or me.
I'll pick on Ina.
Okay. I'll accept.
Ina, and this is a super minor thing, I'm just kind of curious. Last week we had, or earlier in this week when this first came out, the ordinance, it had a certain rate for the water, and then when it came out later on in the week, it changed, only by a penny, but I'm not used to things changing. Why would it change?
Good evening. This is Ina Resnick, City Controller. I have to apologize. I don't see what you see as a draft earlier in the week, so I only get to review the final version and the rates that you see there. I assume that the difference is due to the fact that we have a system that bills for the water and sewer, and when the percentages are entered into the system, it rounds it a little different than what the Excel spreadsheet would.
It was
a
the
rounding
same. I
error.
think, Roy, it was a rounding issue because since percentages and the fractions of a cent,
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah.
I'm just not,
It's
to be
just
honest,
like,
in
yeah.
all my years, I've never seen that happen between, the morning and the afternoon.
Yeah. I think they were rounded, so to the, if it was under 0.5 of a cent, it went down, but it would have to go up. It would have to be what is truncated or whatever, it would have to go up to cover the cost, so everything was just moved.
It's a rounding error that has happened in the past before, and it was corrected in the final version.
It's just due to the rounding
Okay.
and the way that the system that is responsible for the billing does the rounding.
But basically, I just want to make sure I have my math right. Going back 2 years, if you were using between 12,000 and 150,000 gallons, you were charged $5 a gallon, $5 a thousand gallons. Then this year, you're being charged $7.06 a gallon. So it went up $2.06 every 1,000 gallons. I have that right, which is almost 41.2%.
So 0 to 12,000 gallons is $6.61.
No, we're not talking, because that wasn't even in the thing. We're talking about the 12,000 to 100, I'm sorry, we're talking about the 12,000 to
Okay.
150,000
Yes, that went
gallons.
to 706.
And that's, because that's what was there before.
Okay.
The 0 to 1,200 wasn't there before. So that went up $2.06.
Yeah, that's accurate. That's correct.
And which was 41%. The sewer, and I know the sewer is the next one. Do you want me to wait for the next one, or can we just?
It's your question. You
Okay.
do it
So
any
the
which way.
sewer,
Let's do the sewer with the sewer item, just because you can keep it clean.
okay. So, all right, I just wanted to make sure I had my math. I'll wait for the sewer now.
Okay, John?
Yeah, I think, can you just, I guess this is more for Dan, can you just expand a little on, so between the increase last year and this increase, water rates will be going up about 41% over the course of the year. Can you just maybe delve a little deeper into some of the challenges at the water department that are requiring this?
So
May
the-
I say one thing before?
ahead.
The 2024 water fund budget was balanced on the use of the fund balance in the water fund in anticipation of installation of new water meters, because the ones that most of the city is using right now is not reading the usage correctly. So we anticipated that the new water meters will read the usage correctly. The volume will increase with the same rates. We will collect the higher revenue. That did not materialize in 24 and 25. Therefore, we have to increase it. But basically, a big portion, there are increases in the water fund due to the normal operational increases like you see in the general fund. But the increases are so drastic because it was budgeted on the fund balance.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's
And
why I was
yeah.
hoping Dan could expand on some of the issues, because
Yeah,
I
well-
think people would,
So the water fund, and it was funny because I was going to bring it up, like Roy was going to do in the sewer fund thing, but the water fund specifically has a very, very limited fund balance left in it because we used it last year to try to avoid increasing the rates. So basically, any impact to the cost of running the water system has to be funded through the rate increase. There's no other way to fund it because we don't have the fund balance. So the same things that we had that drastically impacted the general fund this year, as far as pension costs, because remember our water employees are charged to the water fund, the insurance costs, which were dramatic, and the property property insurance rates for those facilities all had the same percentage drastic increases that the general fund had. there was no other way to fund that than through rates, because because the water fund was pretty much used up. That's why we're unfortunately we're increasing the rates to cover that fund, not to mention the regular water main breaks, water fund, filter replacements, capital improvements that are necessary, such as the water tower that will eventually have to come in, but that's not in this yet. So we're hoping to make up a lot of this when the water meters are implemented, but we don't have that available yet to use, so we have to raise the rates.
All right, thank you.
You said that,
Mike?
Yeah, I was just, to expand on the water meters, because Ina made a good point, and Dan, so did you. How quickly do you see that really affecting change?
I think as soon as they go in, they'll start reading the correct volume of water going through them. I know they've started that project now. I don't have the actual numbers. Ken may have them as far as actual numbers, but we expect those to go in soon, and we expect to put out the commercial properties, which is where the big impact will be made in this capital plan. So we still need to get that portion of the project out on the street and bid out as well, and that should make a bigger impact to collections.
So can I just ask,
Chris? Oh.
just to follow up to what Mike said, the current budget, does it account for the new water meters? It does not. So there is a possibility once the new water meters go in, we may wind up adjusting the rates down once we get more accurate water numbers.
Yes, and no. Remember, we still have to build a little bit of fund
No, I get it. We
balance.
still
in
have
that-
to fund
in that, yes.
everything.
So, and we still have to build a little bit of fund balance, so we don't have to
Yeah.
keep adjusting the rates based on, minor changes. But these ones this year were pretty major.
Ina?
Okay, we'll go to the public. Any questions from the public? Yes.
I'm in the middle of a question.
You asked your questions already.
I have more questions after
How would I
answer,
know that?
Because I started speaking.
I didn't hear you.
Okay.
But no,
Ina?
hold on a second, Roy. If you're going to speak, let's just run it the right way.
I did.
I didn't hear you.
And you called on Mike.
No. Roy, you began questioning, then John questioned.
Then I
Then we went to
started-
Mike,
then I started
and then you want to go
questioning
again.
Then I
But I
started
I don't know, I can't read your mind.
No, but when I said, and then you went right to Mike.
Okay. I started with you, I went to John, I went to Mike, and then to Chris. What's the problem?
No problem.
Good.
I'd like to ask Ina a question,
I thought you did.
and I'm asking her. another.
Okay, go ahead.
When you say that the water meters weren't operating, did that mean they weren't reading properly?
So they operated. The type of meter they are over time wears down. It's a physical meter, so as the blades, for a better, easier way to understand it, as the blades start to shrink, water's getting by without being totally accounted for.
So since those meters are all the same, basically the same age, we should know how much we're missing on that? How much water are we?
I don't think there's a calculation for exactly how much you're
Not
missing.
exactly.
But we're
expect
expecting
exactly.
a significant change, over 10%. of the
So
change.
the shrinkage is at 10%, and how old are they?
I don't know. Ken, do you know how old these are? About
They were put in 2000.
25 years almost?
2000 they were put in. I was involved in that project. So
Okay.
yeah, 2000 they were put in, and they had at the time they were given a useful life of 20 years, so we're over the useful life of them.
So did we not know that they were going to shrink 20 years ago?
I don't. It's hard to even say whether it's reading inaccurately or not. That's our assumption that over time they start to. It's just natural wear and tear
So
on it,
this is based on the assumption that there's
Yes.
wear and tear.
which is why we did not calculate it as further income, because until we see it, we don't know whether the impacts are. Again, the
Okay.
conservative approach.
And we bought these water meters when that was 3 years ago. We
I don't know
passed
what it was bid.
John, do you remember? So I think it was 3 years ago. We
I don't know if
passed
it was that long ago.
I think it was
we
while I
just
was
bought-
here.
We just bought the meters, you were here when we
Yeah, I
bought
think
the
I was
meters
here when we
because-
bought
No,
them.
but we passed the bond. It was
Well-
65 million, 65, something.
No, it wasn't that
No,
much.
no, it wasn't that much, 6.5 million.
No, because
I'm
it was-
sorry, I'm
It's just
sorry.
been within the last year and a half that we met with the vendors to figure out what meters we
Yeah,
needed.
because I picked the
You were here,
vendors,
yeah.
So
Because I
it's
sat
got to
in
be
on
in the
that.
last year.
Right, and we talked about how long the current meters were and how long the new meters were.
Right.
Right, and I'm just trying to figure out why it's taking us so long to get them in.
Ask the previous administration. If you're saying why weren't they replaced 5 years ago in a useful life, I can't.
No,
answer.
I didn't say that. I said, you just said we bought them a year ago or something like that. And I'm just wondering why we haven't started installing them.
We are installing them now. We already have the
So
antennas up
I'm
on the
not
roof.
responsible for the project. I only can say conceptually, as with any other capital project, when we received the grant, right? So we had to get it in a capital plan. We had to get it through the bond authorization, borrow money, and then bid for the vendor who would design the system and help us select the best company that could accommodate this magnitude of a project. Right now, it's in a phase where I think it's in a testing phase. Am I right?
Yep. I think there's over
So as
15
far
installed.
as the capital projects of this magnitude are involved, and maybe Jan can support me in that, I don't think that it's moving extremely slow. It's just
It's actually moving.
natural.
It's moving pretty fast for this project.
All right, thank you. All right, now we'll get to the public. Christina, sorry to get you up here on a false alarm. I thought we were done up here with the questions from the council, but there's always more questions, right?
Hi. So I have a couple of questions. So are each of the meters on the homes going to be tested to see if they need the upgrade, or are we just going to upgrade the entire city because the purchase was made?
All of them are beyond their useful life.
I'm sorry?
All of them are beyond their useful life.
Okay, and so then is there, my understanding is that there is a service charge not to have a new smart meter, and then a monthly charge to not have the smart meter. Am I correct in that statement?
I don't know the details. I don't know the details right now. I think it will have to be changed, because over time this is how we're monitoring the meters.
Yeah,
So
as a person who's been this is not my first rodeo with smart and clean and green, I would like to opt out, and my understanding is that there is probably fees associated with that.
I actually saw some of the comments online, and I addressed them with our Herald reporter too. The Hempstead is going through a process where they are doing some replacement of water meters. They do have an opt-out. We do not. All of our meters, not all of them are really out of their useful life. Some people at Elevated have newer meters, but all of our meters need to be on the new system. That's why all of them are getting swapped out. But there is no opt-out on this.
So there's no opt-out if you don't want a new meter and no way to get it read in an analog way?
Correct.
correct.
I think sometimes the residents have had enough. Like, this is 10% increase on our water bills, obviously. When is it going to be enough? Thank you.
Eileen?
Eileen Hessian, Long Beach. I had my meters changed out today. It took about an hour. The man was very considerate and it was all clean and everything was fine. I understand that you had told us we would not have to pay anything for it, and I didn't have to pay anything for it, but it looks like we're paying for it in one of these different ways. A 13% increase. Christina said 10%. It's a 13% increase in the water. And if 2 years ago it was $5, up to $7.06 is big. I'm wondering if anyone looked into towns in surrounding areas to see what they're paying for this number of gallons. Anybody look into that? I mean, I only know what my daughter pays, which is close to nothing, but she's in a different state. Also, there's more to be said about the sewers. I mean, this is like you want a 0% tax, but everything's going up. And I understand that the world, everything is going up. But this is not sustainable. With the pensions that we're paying, the fire engines that we're buying, it's too much. It's too much. It's too much. You have to start making cuts. Cut somewhere. Get rid of some of the things.
I think the problem is we can't make cuts with water. I mean,
No, you can't make cuts with water, but
it's
there
an
are other
essential
places,
part
you
of
know.
life.
We don't have to have the $2 million whatever. We can have less. We can have less in many cases. We don't need the shade things built on the boardwalk. I know it was
That's
a grant, but
though.
it was a matching grant, which means money came out of my pocket again. We have to start cutting back somewhere.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, close that one. Thank you, Anna.
Item 2 is a public hearing for a local law amending the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding sewer rents.
So similar to the last item, this one changes the charter to change sewer rates. Sewer fund, however, has a healthier fund balance. So whereas we are changing rates, the sewer charges should remain the same. Just as an FYI, the sewer charges are a percentage of the water charges. So the sewer rate will reduce by the same percentage as the water rates are increasing, so that the cost to the residents should stay the same regarding sewer rates. Ina's here if we have any further questions as part of the
Okay.
public hearing.
Mike, any questions?
No, I think that's a good point. And Ina, did you leave? Where'd you go?
She's there.
You're hiding behind the TV. Just to maybe explain that point a little clearer with, sorry, Dan, not to say it wasn't clear, but the offset of the rent.
Sure, I will try. So the way that the sewer usage is charged, it's based on the water usage. And the water is metered, so whatever we need to collect in sewer revenue to cover sewer expenses is calculated, and then I compare that to whatever we'll receive as a water revenue, and sewer revenue is adjusted to that percentage. So because sewer fund was not balanced based on the fund balance similar to how the water fund was in 2024, we don't have to have such drastic increases there, right? So the revenue, that's the whole point of the recurring revenue. The revenue is recurring there, and we can maintain it at the same level as the water rates increased. Sewer rates, as a portion of the water, can be decreased, so to maintain it at the same level. So to maybe say it differently, if you paid $7, if you paid $5 for the water and now $5.50 and now paying $7, if you paid $10 for sewer, you're going to still pay $10 for sewer, even though it's now, as a percentage, it's 79%.
Thank you.
Chris? Roy?
Thank you. So, Ina, last year when we raised the water 25%, you said it was being offset by the sewer. Okay, and we did that because we had fund balance in the sewer. So we took the money that we saved and we used it to cut the sewer and to offset the water. So the water went up over the last 2 years by $2.07. The sewer 2 years ago was 130% of the water. So if the water was $5 for 1,000 gallons, the sewer was $6.50. Now the sewer is 79.65% of the water, and the water is up at $7.06. So basically, you're talking about $5.62. Okay, so we saved 88 cents on the sewer. But we went up by $2.07 on the water. So how did that offset it?
How did that offset in 2025 budget? The offset was only in 2025. There is no, because the sewer was actually reduced. What I'm saying now, if you pay $10, if you're paying $10 this year, you're going to be paying $10 in 2026 for the sewer. In 2025, if you paid $12, and I'm using hypothetical numbers, if you paid $12 for the sewer in 24, you started to pay $10 in 25. So in 24, it was a real dollar reduction. What you're seeing now is just the percentage reduction.
So it just so when you told us that we were saving, that the water was being offset by the sewer, you just meant for that year, and then the water continued to go up, but the sewer would stay the same.
That's not what I said. I said that in 2025, the increase in water was offset by the decrease in sewer. With this 2026 budget,
That's what I just said.
Yeah, the increase in water is not offset by the decrease in
That's
sewer.
what I just said. In 2025, the last time, 2 years ago, when we increased the water,
1 year ago.
you said it was offset by the sewer.
Yeah.
That the sewer is going down enough so that the people aren't going to feel it.
Almost. Not to the penny, but yes.
The people weren't going to feel the increase in the water. I remember the conversation.
Not
and I'm sure
not
everybody
to
here
the
does.
extent of 25% increase. That's correct.
Okay. It was that there wasn't going to be an increase because of the sewer. When I look at the numbers, that doesn't seem to be the case, but okay, thanks.
John?
I wasn't going to ask a question, but maybe I'll try to explain something that hopefully will make it easier for people to understand. The way that water and the sewer system work is they assume if you take a gallon of water out of your faucet, a gallon of water is going down the drain eventually into the sewer. So if you paid $1, there was a time if you paid $1 for water, you paid $1 for the sewer because what came out of your faucet went back down the drain. Unless maybe if you went to Jetty and had a few pints, then maybe you got better
It goes in a
better
different
benefit
spot.
out of the sewer.
It goes to a different place.
But what happens over time is the water department, the water operations have a completely separate budget than the city's general fund. It's its own business. Think of it as its own business. Same with the sewer department. They're their own business with their own completely separate budget, and they both have to break even. And what happens over time, because they have different numbers of employees and different equipment needs and chemical needs and things, the operating costs change. Some years water may cost more, some years the sewer may cost more. So the rates have to be adjusted to keep those departments at break even. So to Roy's point, there was a time where you paid 130% of what you took out of your faucet for the sewer rates. Now you're going to pay, if this passes, 79%. So these things adjust with time depending on the operations of the department and their finances. So sometimes they're going to go up, sometimes they're going to go down. So I'm hoping that just is an explanation of why you're seeing this exercise, right? In an ideal world, it'd be if you took $1 worth of water out of your faucet, $1 worth is going down the drain. But again, because it costs different amounts of money to operate these departments over time, there's differences, and the rates are adjusted up or down separately to account for those differences.
Thank you, John. I would say that we also have to remember that the sewer won't always be our problem as
Correct.
well. So that's something I think to look forward to.
Yeah, so we're actually planning on using the fund balance in sewer fund because it's going to go, the sewer fund is going to go to the county. That's also one of the reasons why
Right.
the sewer rates can remain as is because the fund balance is going to be used.
Right, okay.
Finn, let me just ask you a question, though, Ina. when it goes to Nassau County, don't we become our own sewer district? Doesn't Nassau County make us our own sewer district?
That's probably a question for the Nassau County and their
Yeah,
legislature.
It is, yes, it does. And at that point, Nassau County determines what we're being charged for the sewer. So the idea that once they take over, we're not going to have this sewer cost.
I didn't say that.
I didn't say you said it.
Okay.
Okay? Is absurd. We are going to be possibly paying more than we're paying for sewer right now. Nobody knows. Nassau County, they're going to see how much this whole operation costs. But the sewer costs are not going to go away. And I just don't want people thinking that they are.
But the overhead will go away. We
No,
won't be running.
the overhead will be included in our sewer rates.
But it won't be our overhead.
No, it won't be our
Right, so
overhead,
that's the
but
point, that's the
our
point he's making.
people, these taxpayers will be paying for it.
Well, I didn't, no one thought it was going to be for free. It's just that it's going to the county. So we won't have the overhead and the various fees that come with that. That's the point.
Right now, that's coming out of the sewer plant, the sewer
Yeah, I
department.
understand.
It's the exact same
Brendan,
thing.
may I just to sum things up, kind of like what John did before, no matter what, we're paying for sewer, whether it's the county, whether it's Long Beach, we are paying for a sewer in the city of Long Beach.
That's right.
I think what everybody's trying to say is that the county rates, in comparison to Long Beach rates, are lower, and we, with no sewer department overhead or workers, will be on the same scale as the county. With that overhead going away, we will have less expensive sewer rates.
Not according to what Nassau's talking about, because they're talking about.
What are they
Well,
talking about?
instead of
Because
hypothesizing about the future, why don't we, let's just stick to right now.
That's exactly what Chris
I'm just
said.
saying
They're gonna go
factually
down.
now that Nassau County pays less than us, right?
Some parts, but they're in different districts.
I
This
thought-
will be our own sewer district, and this will be a sewer district where they're going to have to put in a lot of infrastructure.
I thought cumulatively Nassau County paid
Right.
less than us as a whole.
Okay, thank you. Let's get to the public questions. Mike? You sure you want to come up here?
Softball. Mike Delory, Long Beach. Years ago, the sewer was 135% of the water. People complained back then is, why am I paying for more money to get rid of what I drank? So, anyway, I think your water loss is, and this is my guess, I have no data to support anything. I think it's more like 30%. So what's happening is the age of these, having gone through this in a very, very small scale, the flow through the system of your water doesn't count as things age. So if you have a 30-year-old meter, you may be losing the ability to properly bill 20%, 30% of water loss. And I think that's when they created the budget, they had projected that the rollout would capture, and correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. Now, I'm having my water meter installed tomorrow. And if it was available sooner, I would have done it as soon as possible. And my reasoning is this, and the question I'm asking is, can I read my consumption through an app-based system on my phone? Not at the rollout phase. Okay. And lastly, my comment is, I know other areas that people opt out, they refused to have it installed, and there was a charge for that. And it escalated, 100, 150, 200 every year. I'm not suggesting that. The reason for that is then you have to have a manual read, you have to get an employee to go out there and read it, and that's a labor cost. So,
Right.
anyway,
All right, thank you, Mike.
that's my opinion, but the question I just asked, I got the answer from Mr.
Okay.
McNally.
Well,
Thank you.
well
Mike, we,
valued.
we are also looking at your previous comment about adding a new rate on the back end in the future for places that use much more water.
You
It
remember
was a
that?
good- Yep, we are still looking at that.
And those meter sizes are a lot more costly.
Yes, yep,
Yep, thanks.
thank you for that.
Any other questions from the public? All right, thank you. We'll close that one.
The third item is a public hearing for the purpose of giving citizens an adequate opportunity to publicly present their views on the general summary of the capital improvement program for the 5-year period from July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2030.
Okay, so this public hearing is for the adoption of the capital plan. As mentioned in my city manager report, this is a conservative approach again, in that we plan for everything we think we can accomplish in the year. Whereas I have the utmost confidence in my DPW team, the utmost, we have a great team, I am not sure everything planned will actually occur this year. However, I want to propose a capital plan that is transparent and covers everything that we can find that we can aggressively design, bid, and build in this year. And we do think we have the people in place that can do that, including building and street repairs that have been woefully neglected in the past few years. I have Ken here to give a presentation regarding the capital plan and may be able to explain a little bit more for this. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Dan. So this is actually my 15th capital plan I've been presenting. I did 14 for the county before I came to the city. This is a smaller capital plan that I'm used to presenting, but it's just as challenging because resources are extremely important and how you put together your resources and deal with your issues. As Dan said, capital plan covers all infrastructure, roads, drainage, sewer, water, but also equipment, IT, economic development, and those types of items. This plan was put together as in concert with many other folks, and all the department heads were part of putting the plan together, as well as with the city controller and my staff that I want to give a shout out to also. You can change the slide. So, as I said, this plan deals with all city issues. It is a larger plan than you've seen before, and as the city manager, Dan, mentioned, this is to deal with some deferments that I've seen as I put this plan together. I'll get into them later, but like Magnolia Center needs a new HVAC system. Historically, we've been attacking HVAC systems by pieces and parts, and you never get a complete system replaced. You keep spending money, and it's a drain on finances, both in the maintenance and in the capital area. So we're looking at a couple projects that are in this plan that have come to pass this year with the staff I have on hand. That's what these numbers represent. Next slide, please. If you look at the breakout, general fund's at $14 million, sewer at $2.5 million, water fund is at $8 million. And these categories, as shown on the chart, cover many, many different areas. Next slide. This budget process, like I mentioned, starts with soliciting all the departments what their needs are. Then there's meetings with the city controller, the city manager, and we drill down and we present the final budget, which is here today. Next slide, please. This body will vote on this plan. After this plan is voted on, this is a plan. This does not give the authority for the controller to borrow money. We come back to you between now and September with a bond ordinance request, which is the actual borrowing of the money. Next slide, please. Quickly, successful projects that were completed from the last plan include the Heron Street road raising, Pacific Playground, MLK mitigation work, some overlay work, and sewer emergency repairs. That's one thing I've seen an uptick since I've been here. We actually have presented 2 to you since I've been here in the last 3 months, and we have another one coming shortly thereafter. So again, the city has an aging infrastructure, and we must continue to invest in that infrastructure. Next slide, please. These are some pictures quickly of where we came and where we went. When you look at Pacific or Market Street. Next slide. Sewer emergency repairs. Next slide, please. And this is Heron, which is the most recent road reconstruction project that we're finishing as we speak, and this project also raised the roads, replaced utilities, and is quite a different for the community on this block. Next slide, please. Again, these are some overlay projects that we've done. The Park Avenue one we did a couple weeks ago. Currently, we have Nat Grid doing Park Avenue tonight on the other side. And one thing I do want to mention that this city has done a great job partnering with the utility companies to get them to do a lot of overlay work, which historically, when I was with the county paid for this work, and we just coordinated activities with them. So you're seeing a tremendous financial benefit by working with the utilities where we are. Just as in passing, the work gets done the next 2 nights is worth almost $300,000 to city residents if we were to do it ourselves. Next slide, please. So the proposed capital plan has a number of projects that are currently in construction that we continue to finance. North Shore bulkheading, the diversion project, the walks, water main replacement phase 1, the dispatch down in the police headquarters, ice rink bathroom rehab, which is ongoing, the generator for the City Hall project, which is going, and a number of other things that are listed on the table. Next slide, please. And so quickly, some pictures to give some relevance. If the public wants to go online, this is shown online in the portal, so you can spend some time and take a look at the pictures of the next couple slides, which is the ongoing projects. Next slide. And then next slide. This is the walks. This is, if you went down there to phase 1, it really came out excellent.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Construction and design team has done a great job moving this project along, and it's going to be wrapped up by the end of this week, with the exception of some road work that we have to do. So upcoming projects that are in the capital plan that are going in design and that we plan on constructing this year. And again, when I say this year, it's the 25-26 year. I'm still trying to get used to not working off a calendar year, but you guys have a budget year. So we have a number of important projects. Salt storage shed, we have to be in compliance with the storage of salt. We have the locker room, barracks transformation at the firehouse downstairs. That's in design. That will go out to bid, where we'll provide proper facilities for our female firefighters. Turf field replacement. The turf field is past and at its useful life. Needs to be changed. Pine Street and Recreation, both the roofs are failing. So these are things that I say that have been deferred and been patched and been taken care of, not in a comprehensive way, so we're looking to do that along with the Magnolia Center. East Bay Drive road reconstruction. The city has many utilities, water, sewer, that have passages for life and causing havoc, especially on the sewer side. Like I've mentioned earlier, I've noticed we've had many. When something goes south, we have to replace the pipe. There's no longer fixing the pipe. East Bay Drive has had a number of water main breaks. This water main is not located in the street, it's located in the right-of-way, so there's a significant impact to the residents on this area when we have a failure, which is why we're looking to do a reconstruction of this road first in the upcoming year. From there, we're moving to the walks phase 2 to finish the walks water main replacements. We've had numerous failures, and our utility crews are out there all the time fixing it, which is why the walks was considered a priority from the last phase 1 now into phase 2. Again, water meters, we were thinking of having a second phase to deal with the rest of the city, but that's going to be quite expensive. So we're breaking it into another phase, which will be the condos along the ocean front. That'll be the next phase of water meter work that will get done, and then from there we'll go to commercials after that. We have sand filters at our water treatment plant that we're replacing. There's 4 phases of work to do that. We're spreading out over time. The pool heater, if you've gone to the rec center, you'll notice the pool heater, there's a temporary system that's in the parking lot. This capital plan will replace that and put a new system in. And then the Army Corps of Engineers beach renourishment project. Every 5 years, we have to work with the Army Corps and refurbish the beach to keep our permit active, and this is the city's contribution to that project.
Ken, if I could just jump in, there's a couple of things on that slide that I just want to highlight. That a lot of these roof replacement, HVAC replacement, street repairs, we're spending a lot of money going out and dealing with emergencies. When something breaks down, we have to then put in temporary systems that cost almost as much as it probably costs us to replace the systems. The roofs, we have the guys going out and putting buckets underneath the roofs every time it rains, which takes them away from doing their work. These are things that should have been done a long time ago. The streets constantly having sewer mains breaking, water mains breaking, streets are in bad shape. If we can get ahead of these things and start replacing them instead of waiting for them to fail, it will be money well spent. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in on you, Ken, but I think it's important to say that.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, next slide, please. These are the projects that are in the capital plan that will remain in design for 25-26. Police auxiliary building, HMP projects still associated with Sandy. My goal is to get these things to an endpoint in design this coming year, and if not, close them out. We have 2 planning projects, the City Hall facade. That project has just been initiated. We'll see by some point this year what that program will look like to work on this building. And then we also have the Clark Street bulkheading. We finished the planning study. We need to meet with the residents and figure out what the design aspects of that project will or will not be once we meet with them. Next slide, please. And again, here's some pictures of what we're talking about, the Pine Street roof, what our current salt dome situation is, which is a pile of salt back in our yard, and then the turf field and the beach. Next slide, please. East Bay reconstruction, road overlays, and then, of course, we have our tree planting program, which we just did some trees earlier in the spring. Next slide, please. And this gets into the equipment part of the conversation. The city has a tremendous inventory of equipment that needs to be constantly replaced on a regular basis. While Sandy was a benefit to get new equipment for the city, it all showed up at the same time, and now it all ages at the same time. So we are looking now, working with our transportation folks and our fleet garage about how to spread out the replacement of equipment, but you need to spend money every year to minimize the overall impact. And just an example, the fire department in this budget has a new fire engine and an ambulance. The last budget had an ambulance in it. The budget before that had a hook and ladder truck. And moving forward, we have a replacement program for fire engines, and they're not a cheap item at $1.5 million a pop. So to spread it out is a better way of going about this, which is why there's money in this plan to do that. In addition, you have DPW equipment. They have quite a bit of equipment, whether it's dump trucks, utility trucks, Vector trucks, sanitation trucks, which have been done in the last couple of years. So this is a constant flow of resources to deal with this so everything doesn't come due at the same time. And then we have, of course, lifeguards. They need new equipment. One thing I do want to mention is as we replace equipment, it's not surplus. It's usually passed down to units that use it at a less frequent basis. So if the lifeguards have trucks they don't put a lot of miles on their trucks, but they do put a lot of use on them, they get pushed down to other agencies to use those trucks. So the useful life of all our vehicles are maximized to the extent possible to keep our fleet and our funds required for our fleet at the lowest possible levels. Next slide, please. So this is a chart, and there's 2 slides here that get into the highlighted projects of what new funds we're asking for, what are the existing funds in the capital plan that support these projects, the grant funds, and I want to give a shout out to Patty and Tyler. They do a great job for the city in getting us grant funds. It's not easy to do that. My experience with the county was it was a tremendous burden, but we have a great group that we get a lot of funding. So that's a big plus for this. And then I actually included 2 columns of what I believe currently, and we'll drill down this further and present it to you later in the year, of what we're going to look to bond in September and what we'll probably look to bond later in the year, February or March, depending on the progress of putting these projects forward through the design and out to bid. So again, the next 2 charts, just lay out all, the highlighted large projects. This is not the whole capital plan. There are still many little projects that address little situations that arise, but I thought it would be worthwhile showing on the large scale of the bigger projects. Next slide. Next slide. So in summary, the department is recommending $14.1 million in planning money. We believe the bond ask for September will be around $10 million once we look at where things are. In the water and sewer fund, there's a combination of 10.6 being requested in the plan, and roughly 7.5 of that will need to be bonded in September, we believe. And then the chart at the bottom gives you just the breakout per year of the 5 years of the plan. As with any plan, the first couple of years are more accurate than the outer years, and as we go through this planning process in future, we'll try to drill down and give you a more realistic 5-year outlook. But right now, you know, was really tied up into the first 3 years where we really drilled down and looked at all the equipment and so on and so forth. Again, I want to thank my staff for their assistance, Sandra, Christine, Rita, and Connor for all the work they did, and again, with the Controller's Office, our support is vital in us putting this plan together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken.
Nice job, Ken.
I'll start with questions from the council. John, you want to kick it off?
Sure. I guess my first question is probably going to be for Ina. So, Ina, granted, this is a all-encompassing wish list, and to Dan's point, we may not wind up doing everything, but erring on the side of conservatism, if we were to do everything, so the request is for $24.9 million, 2.3 of that would come from grants. In FY26, we're anticipated to pay down $11.4 million in principal. So we're basically talking about potentially adding $11.2 million in debt to the debt service. Between, if the full plan was implemented and then taking into account what we'll pay down. So in adding $11.2 million in debt, what would that, roughly, principal and interest, what would that add to the debt payments annually?
That's a good question. Hard to answer it right now because I don't. So what this phase of the capital discussion is, these are the projects that are presented for you for approval as a necessity of the projects. The next phase will be in the next couple of months. We will have a bond authorization presented to you, and that will be a more defined number based on whatever projects will be considered viable for the moving forward with in this fiscal year.
Can I also touch up one second?
I don't want to confuse. What we presented in the plan is important projects.
I understand.
No,
that.
but I know you understand that. What I want to make sure is, and I live this through the county too, it's important, and then it's the ability to get it done, right? So we believe everything's important in the plan, but I don't want to say that we're going to spend it all because things happen, that things get scheduled and delayed,
Right.
and
Sure.
So the September borrowing is what I believe we can achieve. I want to achieve the whole plan, but we'll come back to you as the second phase of bond authorization, because why do we want to borrow it all and not achieve it? Right? And then you end up with these balances that you're wasting your...
Well, we've done that in the past.
Right.
We
So that's
borrowed
why
lots of money that that just sat there
Right.
for
So
years.
I just don't want to minimize the things that we may not get. It's just we have to get to it, but it may not happen timely enough, which is why we're looking to...
I fully understand this is, like I said, just a wish list at the moment, and some may happen, some may not. I guess what I'm trying to get at is what usually goes with the wish list is how much is it going to cost from a budgetary standpoint. And I get interest rates vary and things like that. I was just wondering if you had a ballpark estimate of what that $11.2 million might.
So we know one question. So there's also another part. I was going to say everything that Ken said, but there's also another part in that some of it will be short-term borrowing, because some of it we get grant money back, and we use it as working capital. There is also a piece of it that is that we are disputing with FEMA, that we borrowed money.
Right, the 5 million.
to-
I get
to pay,
that, yeah.
that is included in here, but if we get it
Right.
back, again, conservatism, but we have to put everything in it, and then hopefully we get that money back, and the long-term borrowing.
And
does
that's
not
what I'm
occur.
saying, for the point of conservatism, just getting an estimate of what this may cost if everything came to fruition.
It would be too premature of me to tell you right now. I can come up with the number, but I don't think that that number will hold water, because once we borrow for the project, what determines the pay down is also the useful life of each project, and that will determine how much we're paying each year. So I don't know at this point whatever is going to be the mix and the average useful life of all the projects that will be bonded. Another thing that we discussed was to do 2 borrowings in the next fiscal year, to do a September and February borrowing, to make sure that we only borrow whatever is absolutely needed. As time goes on, the DPW department has a better projection on what will be achieved in that year. So we'll minimize the borrowing, and that will minimize the cost.
Okay, so obviously, when it comes time for the bond, we're going to need that level of detail.
Right.
Yes, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
Roy?
All right, and, well,
Oh,
hang
sorry.
on, don't let that end. I guess, Ken, this one's, I guess, for you. So, and you and Dan have kind of alluded to this, and I guess most of my engineering career, I've had to deal with preventive maintenance programs, which this city does not seem to have, as well as...
The city's not special in that regard.
Yeah,
I think
and to the point of, that's why we often wind up having to pump huge amounts of money into fixing things that could have been taken care of much earlier at a much cheaper rate, or replacing them. So I guess one of the questions I have is maybe part of a plan is, do we have the ability to implement a trackable preventative maintenance program so we could start doing preventive maintenance and maybe replacement schedules, so we can do things on a more routine schedule and get a better control on costs, kind of smooth the curve out over time?
I've been talking to my superintendents and director of operations with regards to our work order system, which would come into an asset management system,
Right.
to look at these things. I mean, those things cost money too.
Of course, that's what I'm saying, and that would go in a plan.
Yeah, so
That cost of
that's
that.
always and there's labor resources to do those things, so there's a balance of that investment versus the output. But yes, we need to look at what these buildings are taking in all the time, and then plan out the cost the other way. And that's why Magnolia Center is in this capital plan. This was at one point too, because once I looked at the 13th repair on this system, like, what are we doing? We need to just invest in this building.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll give you a good example. Tide flex valves, right?
Mhm.
We spent a large amount of money replacing Tide flex valves, and then completely ignored them for years. And when they went and started the North Shore Critical Infrastructure Project, they found a lot of the Tide flex valves were gone. They didn't even know where they went and when. So, I mean, if you got a preventative maintenance program, or they never cleaned them out, so they used to get stuck open, which kind of defeats the purpose of having a Tide flex valve. So, again, a little investment for maintenance, can prevent a big investment down the line.
Yeah, that is always the big balance of adding infrastructure and be able to maintaining what you're adding. And one thing that the facilities people are looking at and have included in a lot of their new HVAC programs is a building maintenance system that is a centralized monitoring system, so we can see how these buildings are operating as we replace these units, which helps us with maintenance and with issues before they occur. So
Okay.
yes, I would agree with you that we need to look at that part of the equation.
Okay. Another question is, obviously, the unknown factor of tariffs on materials. We don't know what they'll maybe if 3 months from now, 6 months from now. The costs that are in there for road materials, piping, things like that. Is that based on kind of current costs? Does it account for there may be tariffs that will increase our material costs?
It's our best guess of what our mid-year cost would be.
Okay, but based on current prices?
And looking, if you move that price mid-year. But again, things change so drastically. It's,
Obviously.
It's very difficult to do that. But that's what that's what we're looking at right now.
Okay, thank you.
Roy, do you have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
Come on, you know better.
You don't get my sarcasm yet.
Ken, a couple of things. On the projects that are proposed in the 25-26 plan year, you talk about the West End parking garage. Can you expand on that a little?
I could explain that. So the West End parking garage is a parking solution that I think may help the West End. I've been in talks with the school district. It's not finalized yet, but we are talking to them about the potential of using the West End school yard that they are currently looking at renovating as a parking lot, and then build the current schoolyard on the roof of the parking lot.
I'm sorry, when you said the schoolyard, there's a northern
Beach Street side.
schoolyard and a southern, you're talking about where the...
On the Beach Street side.
I don't think
The
we'll be
Beach
able to
Street,
park
okay.
on Park Avenue into school because I think it would only fit like 3 spots.
Right,
This
that's
would
what
be
I was
the
wondering.
big yard
So you're talking about where it's a double layer right
where
now?
yeah, where it's everything from the school to
Right.
Beach Street.
Yeah, and how many cars would that hold? Do you know?
There's some differences of opinion on it. I think it could hold up to potentially 132 spots, which would be, game changing for the West End. There are other estimates that are as low as I think 72. 72, I think, is some other estimates,
I'll
which
go
would
with-
still be pretty
I'll go
good
with
for
the
the-
130.
I like the 130.
I mean, if you
Yeah.
put it in the middle and it's 110, I mean, that wouldn't be terrible. That would be great for the West End. It'd
Yeah.
be great for Long Beach, really.
And what would that cost us?
Our estimate is around 5 million. I think it will go up to about 6 million because I think we need 2 ramps that leave it for egress purposes. I also think they requested we need to put in an elevator up to the second floors for it to be used, which was not in their original estimate. So I think we're at about 6 to 7 million. Their estimate, the school's estimate, is a little higher, but they also do have. There's a big part. The whole schoolyard would have to be redone on the roof as well, which would be, right now, would be their cost.
Wow. Okay. And the other thing is the beach replenishment is another one of the projects. Would that actually cost us money, or would the...
I believe there's a 50% match on that.
Yeah, that $600,000 represents the match for the design and construction phases as outlined by the Army Corps to us about 3 months ago.
Oh, you said 600 was for the design?
And construction, that's both our
and-
matches for that work.
And that's our match, or that's the total cost?
That's our match.
Okay, and would that straighten out the jetty so that we would build the same jetties as, no?
No, this is just beach replenishment. The jetties are still under design. I think, was it Anthony D'Esposito got us that money
Yeah, it's
for
a
the
separate...
design, but it's
yeah.
still years out.
Okay.
Army Corps doesn't move that fast.
And we're also talking about a replacement of the turf field. What would that cost?
About 1.2 to 1.3 million.
And how old is our turf field?
20 years.
And we would still go with turf, we wouldn't go back to grass?
We'll still go back to turf.
And most of the studies say grass ends up being cheaper with the replacement, but then again, if it lasts 20 years, would you expect it, Joe, to last 20 years? Or, most of them now are lasting
And
8 years.
The maintenance cost is significant on
Yeah,
a
and the
on a
amount of
turf.
usage you get on turf fields is probably
It's-
double what you get on grass.
Okay, and the water fund, I noticed next year, in 26-27, you have 13 million allocated to that. And then the same with the general fund. Next year, this year it's 14 million, next year it's 25 million, and then 2 years later it's 32 million. Does that have to do with the North Park situation, or?
North Park.
The water,
You mean the North Park infrastructure?
yeah.
On the bay?
Yeah, on the
Right.
bay.
On the bay?
I mean,
The bulkheading project?
Yeah.
No, that's already, no, these are
So-
other asks that have been put in the out years. On the water side, you have, we're looking at what treatments need to be upgraded, we're looking at wells, saltwater intrusion, possible modifications need to be made. Again, more water main replacement, the commercial water meters, all that stuff is in the out years.
So
And
that,
and again, that has to get drilled down and defined further. These are just planning numbers at this point.
uh-huh.
So again, there's still homework to do on that, but I find it, you gotta show placeholders. You can't talk about something and not show placeholders in the out years, because then people don't have an understanding what ramifications a project may have in the out years if you don't show it.
I know, but I like to look towards the future.
Yep.
Because
Well,
the-
and as we define these further, they'll get adjusted up or down depending on what we see.
Uh-huh. All right, one other question. How much of this would you expect to be grant funded or given by the state or stuff like that? I mean, we're talking a big number here.
Currently, the plan says we have $4 million of grants coming in for the 26 ask. What I did not include, because I want to be conservative, is the additional sewer money I asked for, which is $2 million. I would expect that to get reimbursed, but I can't guarantee that today. So I would add that. I know we're working hard to get grant money for the turf field. I'm hopeful to get something there. We're looking at opportunities for other projects. The Salt Dome, we just recently got a grant, which was great. We're looking at a lot of the water filter work, the elevated storage tank, which is in the out years, looking for money for those with our congressional partners. And, but right now, being conservative, I only say we have $4 million, but there are other projects that we continue to look for. And Patty and I have had many conversations we need to focus our grant applications on what we need to do, not what we think we want to do, which
Yes.
is, you don't want to add things to the list because you got a grant.
So just,
Last question.
Yeah.
if I could just, the one thing that we did say to Millennium Partners, who helps us with the grants, and to Patty's team, I hand them the capital plan, and I say to them, this is what I want you to find grants for. Because if we know we have to do that work anyway, I want them to find grants for those projects because offset the cost that we know we're going to incur.
Good.
Vehicles. How many of our vehicles are actually through the capital plan?
The city, my understanding, buys all the vehicles for the capital plan.
And do you know how many vehicles we have?
Is Mike here?
300 something? I think it's around 300 and something. That's something I haven't drilled down total on. But I think we're around 300 total vehicles. And that's equipment, trucks also, not just cars. That's
Okay, but the cars are the only thing that are repaired in the garage, or?
No, all the trucks, everything goes there. Some things get shopped out if they're beyond the capacity of the staff or the equipment they have to fix.
So now the fire trucks are going there too?
Yes.
We are also sending some of the people from the garage to specific fire department training courses on how to repair their fire equipment, so that more will be done in-house, as well as sanitation, the new sanitation trucks
And the buses.
and the buses.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Chris?
Yeah. Dan, the proposed parking garage on the school lot, we are entitled for some grant money with that?
We've put into the Long Island Regional Economic Development Council. I don't believe we've heard from them yet on that project. I believe there are other grants that we're going to look at that are multi-agency grants.
Mm-hmm.
We are looking for anything we can get on that. I put it in the capital plan regardless for the full amount.
Right.
Because I think it's important to alleviate the parking in the West End, whether we get grants or not.
I think
But we
it's-
are looking for everything.
I think it's one of the most important items on there for the simple fact that we always talk about budgets and spending money and people's comments of cutting things, which I strongly believe in. But one thing, and I said this, I think, maybe last meeting, Something we have to really focus on is how to make money in this city, right? We have to find a way to make money. We're going to have the same conversation every year. Everybody's going to sit up here and point fingers. We have to find ways to make money. And with 132 spots with comparable rates to any municipality that surrounds us, those spots are used 6 hours out of the 24-hour day, it's almost $600,000 a year to the city.
And
$578,000.
These will be metered?
So and that's the most conservative outlook, right? That's taking a spot that's 24 hours and saying we're going to use it for 6. So imagine what it could be. It could be a 7-figure income to the city while solving a major, major parking issue.
And it helps the school district as well in that most of the time that the teachers are in, that they need parking is when we don't really need the parking for the area. It's not the busy period, busy season nor busy
Those
part
are
of
the
day.
things we need to focus on where we need to spend the money, not just spend money because we have a grant, so we're going to find the project. It's put money where we're going to get money back in return.
Absolutely.
An ROI, a return on our investment. So that's great. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Mike?
Thanks. Chris, that was well said because I was going to comment the same way. Just so everybody knows, too, what Ken Arnold is doing. Ken, thank you for putting the plan together. What Ken is doing is really the toughest position for a municipality to fill. And I'm sorry, I'm not to blow smoke here, but I will. We are very fortunate to have you, Ken. He has a vast wealth of knowledge from working for the county for years and years. So we're very fortunate to have you. So thank you. We touched upon it, John, you touched upon it a little bit too. We're going to do 2 bond meetings where we're going to have very close meetings because we're going to want to know what the interest rates are. We're going to know exactly how much it's going to cost. But more importantly, we want to be laser focused on exactly the projects that we're going to do. So I know we touched upon it. I just want to reiterate it because I think that's so important. This is obviously a wish list, and things are going to change, but as long as we all hold hands and we have those very important meetings of September and February, we'll do what's best for the city and to make sure we're not spending too much money. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Chris stole Mike's lines and Mike stole mine.
Yes.
But I was just going to say, in your short time here, you've really gone up to speed very quickly, Ken, and that's not lost on anybody here on the council, especially me. So with that, you brought up the point that we spend a lot of money and a lot of manpower hours fixing things that should have been replaced, exactly. And I know you can't put a monetary figure on that. It would be too difficult, probably, but it's the important part of this capital plan that we stop, just putting a Band-Aid on the wreck and fix it so that everybody's happy. I mean, the taxpayers, because I think the money will be put to better use that way. The problem is finding the will to do that, right? I mean, I think if you could find another way to do it, you would, but I think we need to get new equipment and new infrastructure replacement.
Yeah, I mean, a good example, there's 53 lane miles of road in this city. If you were to replace all these roads every 30 years, you need about a budget of about 1.5 million. We spend a third of that. So to just give you perspective of the amount of work that it is to keep an asset in a state of good repair.
Right.
Now, luckily, a lot of the city roads don't see heavy truck traffic, so they last a good long time. And working with the utilities, we're going to get some of that work done on their nickel too, which is helpful.
Right.
But you apply that to all your assets, like this building alone. I equate this building to 240 Old Country Road for the county. It's a huge building, very important building that's past its useful life, needs a ton of work. And there's a balance there. You got to figure that out.
Yeah, right. All right, thank you.
Well said.
So we'll go to the public. Mike? Come on down.
Mike DeLore, Long Beach. Ken, welcome, by the way, to the city. Hope this could be a lightning round. The ACOE beach nourishment, is it like a design, or is this actual work that you expect to be done?
It's both. It's the design phase that the Army Corps requires to match, and it's not just the city that's matching, it's also the town of Hempstead, and I think the state comes up with money also. So it's a comprehensive match of all the municipalities that have beachfront access along this.
And does that match the coastal engineer's proposal? The coastal engineer comes every year and reviews the condition.
I'll have to look at that a little bit further, but I believe the answer is yes.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. These are things that I don't expect you to have the answer to. And if so, would it be your estimate that the certain beaches, such as maybe Lindell, Magnolia, those that did not have groin replenishments, Monroe, would they actually get sand replacement? Or if you don't know the answer, that's fine.
I don't know the answer. That's going to be, coastal looks at how we're maintaining and controlling the work.
Right.
The Army Corps, I believe, looks at what needs to be put back that's been lost over the period of time to keep it in a state of good repair. So I think they kind of work together, but they're not exactly one for one.
And Mike, those are the areas with the most amount of erosion, so those are likely to get the most amount of replenishment.
Okay, because as we all know, those beaches kind of lose a lot more because of the lack of the groin. Totally agree with the West End parking garage project. If it could be done last year, it would be better. Whatever, I could do to help support it. I did go to the chamber meeting. I asked Mr. DeVito. It seemed to me that we are the lead agency on this one, which I'm more than happy to be a part of that. I believe if the city had the right parking plan citywide, we'd be could be north of $2 to $3 million a year. That's my opinion, based upon things that I've seen.
Hope you're right.
The lifeguard equipment. As president of alumni, I just want to ask this question: do you expect the new vehicles, response vehicles, in next year's operation? Because I know this is a proposal.
I don't know the lead time in some of this stuff.
Okay.
But this would be stuff that would be included in the September part of the borrowing.
The borrowing, and then probably, if approved, it gets implemented.
It depends on how long it takes to get, a jet ski. Some things are quick, some things take a very long time.
Right.
Like a fire truck is 2-3 plus years.
Yeah. I totally agree on that one.
It's a long
And
ride from
expensive.
Indiana.
So the Walks Phase 2 would be, let me just backtrack. Walks Phase 1 took between the design, implementation, anywhere from 6 to 7 years. COVID, transition, funding.
Walks Phase 2 is designed.
Oh, it is?
It's going to need to be looked at and just
Reviewed.
modified, and then put out the bid.
Right.
So the question, the concern I have, and I'm going to work with the city manager and others, is the timing. I'm not sure we can bid it in time to make sure we're not working next summer, so I got to see when's the right time to bid the job.
Yeah, and I think you've got the right viewpoint, looking out at least a year or two. Some people that are in Phase 2 see what was done in Phase 1, and then they're like, when is it our turn? Because the project, in my opinion, went very well.
Yeah, the thing that we'll have to work out is to have that project be a winter construction project means I need to bid it sooner.
Right.
Can I have the bond authorization ready sooner? And I have to work with Ina and Dan to see how that all plays out, and the consultant who has to modify the plan. I don't know yet.
No, and I don't expect you would know, but I had to ask the question, if you understand what I mean.
Yes.
Road reconstruction. Would you have any idea, and I'll give you an example. I traveled, I don't live there, but I travel down Monroe Boulevard between Park Avenue and the Bay occasionally. The road, in my opinion, seems to be needing some work. Thanks, Dave. Anyway, I'll make it short. My suggestion
I have
is
no control over that, Mike.
look at Monroe Boulevard from the Bay to Chester Street for road reconstruction, or whatever you call it. And the last question I have, and you could get back to me in the future, is the Army Corps, and I'll follow up with you. And thanks, Ken.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Any other questions from the public? Tim?
Hi, Tim Kramer, 361 East Broadway. I just want to reiterate what Chris had mentioned as far as the finding new revenue streams. I think that that's absolutely critical for this city to, in my mind, survive and move forward in a positive fiscal way. Critically important, new revenue streams. And secondly, there's something that I've noticed I want to take issue with real quick. If you look at the budget that has been proposed, and then you go back in years past, every budget is different. The verbiage is different. The charts are different. The sequencing is different. There's no uniformity, and quite honestly, in my mind, I'm not poking at anybody up here. I'm just noticing something, that there should be some uniformity, some familiarity when you look at a budget and you want to go back and compare in years past. And I think it's a real disservice to the people that live in this town that you almost have to be a forensic, accountant to go back and figure this stuff out. And that shouldn't be. It should be a more of a uniform, familiar sequencing, and it's just not. And it's
Tim,
disappointing.
It's a good point. I'll let Ina speak to it a little bit if you want. We're moving to a system called Munis, where a lot of this will be online, and it will show everything from the budget to the comments made on the budget each year consecutively, and we will be making that public over time. I'll let you know, so from this point forward, it should be consistent, and you could be able to go into the same document and see the prior years as well as the previous years. We're trying to go to that direction. I don't know if you want to add anything, Ina?
That would be a tremendous improvement, because...
Good evening.
Hi.
We're talking about the capital budget.
No,
so
I'm talking about like
You're
the
talking about
overall
operating.
budget. Like, I'm sure you got, maybe you got new accounting firms and maybe new software and things like this, but
So
there should be
actually,
some consistency, and there's not.
there is a consistency in the last 3 years. Therefore, we received the GFOA award, and you're absolutely right. Before maybe 2023 budget, the city was not applying for the GFOA award, and the budgets were not, budget books were not as comprehensive as they are right now. But if you're going to look through the books and the table of contents for the last 4 years, 4 budgets, they're very consistent, and they actually, everything follows a very precise checklist. In addition, we implemented a system for the book. We're going to have a virtual budget book. So basically, in 2 months, you'll be able to go on the city's website, click on a link, and see how every single one of your dollars spent. You'll be able to put whatever your total tax bill is, and you will see how much is spent on it for the police, for fire, for my salary, for everything
Outstanding. That's a huge improvement, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Yes, James. I've missed you, James.
You missed me? I missed you too.
Thank you.
James Hodge, 95 East Fulton Street. Ken, I got a question for you. You got a great resume, impeccable resume, and you're doing wonderful things. How long have you been here?
In the city?
Yeah, in the city of Long Beach.
What, February?
Oh, okay, so several months. I see you have a very detailed capital plan, very sophisticated. I see a lot of different wonderful projects, and I know you don't have all of them in there, Ken. I see, that's what you said, you have some that's not in there, but it seems like every time I see a plan and the plan that's put to the side is when we come in North Park, Talked about water dripping in the recreation. Kenny, you're doing a good job. Water dripping in Magnolia. There's water dripping in the MLK also. I don't speak on behalf of the MLK.
James.
I'm not a board member.
James?
Yeah. Stop my time because he's talking.
No.
I want him to stop my
I know
time.
you want
Go
your
ahead.
time back. I got you. Can you address those comments to me?
Everybody just came over here and had questions for Ken, but I'll talk to you too because it's for all of you.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm looking at Ken, but I'm going to talk to him too. All right, you can start my time again. So, Ken, how many times have you been through the MLK? Jim, Finn, I know you've been there. How many times you been there?
I've not been there yet.
All right, well, listen, it's a nice place. It's beautiful. It's about 100 feet over that way, you know. So,
They got a
Finn,
nice piano, too.
all right, well, you got to bring them down there, you know. It's a beautiful place. It was built on part of my yard. It's been there since 1981. They service hundreds of kids, after school and seniors. They do a lot of stuff. So I think if you would have been there, maybe if you would have been directed, because a lot of this plan is what's given to you to look at, then you carry on, and Patty gets the grants and this millennial team. I just want to know what team is trying to get the building got cracks in it. Speaking as a taxpayer, got leaks in it. Stopped in the other day, I saw a bucket of water coming through the ceiling. So I'm just wondering, Ken, when you gonna make it down there?
Let me answer the question.
Okay, you want him to answer? Okay, go ahead.
He can answer after I speak.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry about that, but
Stop my
I
time.
think our commitment as a council should be pretty well known with the MLK. We've gone out of our way this year to try to enhance the MLK, the whole system, with the lease, with new management that we're trying to deal with, and these problems, they didn't just pop up. They've been there for a long time. Ken's been here a short time.
Yeah, you're doing
So
a good job.
we're certainly, I know you're not blaming him, but it seems like you might be. So
let me want me to talk straight to you?
Yeah, that's what I asked you to do, yeah, right.
Well, you asked me, but I'm a taxpayer and a
Right.
citizen. I do what I'm allowed to do.
No, you do what you want to do.
No, I do what I'm allowed to do. Don't take my time. Thank you, Finn. So I go back to you. So he's doing a good job, but I'm allowed to be able to address this.
Yeah, sure.
And so you've done a good job. I came up here and applauded you and said, you're doing a fantastic job. Put it on my social media. This is live all over the country now. So just because you've done good don't mean that I shouldn't come and talk about what needs to be added to the table. And if I see a budget for 2026 as a taxpayer, a former board member, a person that grew up in there, I'm an advocate. It's wonderful we talk about alleviating the park situation in the West End. I'm advocate for that. It's wonderful we talk about all of these other places. But this is the lowest income area in the whole city of Long Beach. You get $100 and something thousand from Stop and Shop to deal with Urban League, and Patty got that. She knows how that money works. You get all kinds of community development funds. So it's really no taxpayers' money that you put in the center because it's all on
James,
grants.
do you mind if I touch on some of this?
Yeah, go ahead. I
let me
got
just
10
say-
seconds left, but go ahead.
At 10 seconds.
Time ain't up. 10 seconds. Go ahead.
So I have been through the
Plenty of
MLK
times.
Center, and I work closely with Ken on this plan.
Yes, sir.
So I mean, I don't think asking him when he's going there is going to provide anything extra to it. I work closely with him on it. The water that you talk about services the MLK. The sewer that you talk about services the MLK. The building upgrades that are in the thing that is very non-specific includes the MLK. There's a lot of money in the capital plan that can be used at the MLK and most likely will be used at the MLK. I don't think the assumption that it's not in there is a fair assumption, and I don't think it's a correct assumption, but you're entitled to your opinion.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, as again, a resident, it's not there. You don't see MLK. You see Magnolia. You see Recreation. You may be doing stuff on the side, but it's good for the people of Long Beach and the taxpayers to be able to see it like they see everything else. Sometimes seeing helps create different relationships. I wouldn't be up here if I saw MLK. And so you may be having some money to the side, but what I'm saying to you, thank you for what you've done. We've ate down there. We've had good times down there. But what I'm saying is it's not in the 25-26 capital plan. And so again, I thank you for what you will do. You will continue helping the center. I applaud you for what you're doing and working with the current board and the current staff there. You're doing great. But if I don't do what I'm doing, what kind of community representative or leader I am? I thank you for doing everything in our whole city, but we are a whole city. That is the lowest income area. You know it. I don't have to say it. And so if I'm not advocating, a lot of times it may not be a lot of people here at this podium saying it. So when I bring up something, you don't have to throw in my face, well, we did give you some pies and we did give you some cakes. I understand. Thank you for the pie. Thank you for the cake. But I'm saying I don't see us on the plan right here. So again, I thanked you 100 times, and I will continue thanking you as I continue advocating. We asked for the park. I sat down with you. We got $700,000, right? We didn't have the bulkheading. Crystal Lake did a fantastic job with many others. We got millions of dollars for the bulkhead, over $300 million in this city, and no bulkheading was done ever to help out the riprap that was down there. And we've been getting water and flooded just like Long Beach, but we get it on sunny days. So by us advocating with the state, the federal government, and the city council, that's how we got there. And it's different administrations. So again, I thank you for working and seeing North Park as part of Long Beach and not just a piece of the community. So I will continue coming and continue thanking you and continue holding you accountable no matter which party you're in, because you are an elected official. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your thanks.
Thanks, Ken.
Before we move on, can I just add something?
Yeah, sure, you bet.
That pertains to what you've been talking about. James, a few weeks ago, I set up a meeting between Congresswoman Gillen's staff and the chairperson at MLK, and we had a meeting to talk about putting in for grants for things the building needed. So we talked about money for the roof, to repair the roof, to get a new floor in the main room, the music studio, and for the podcasting, the computer room, the elevator, and bleacher seats as well. So we talked with the Congresswoman's staff. The MLK staff put together a proposal for grant money for the things we talked about with them, and now I assume they're waiting to hear back.
Thank you, John. I did reach out to the Congresswoman about 2 months ago and spoke to her about it. So thank you.
Right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Eileen.
Eileen Hessian. I don't have James' voice. I do have his passion, though.
You have a melodious voice.
Just a couple of questions. I know, City Manager, that you did mention this, but I missed it. When you turn the West School into a parking lot, where will the playground be?
On the roof.
On the roof. And that's safe for the kids? That's good?
Yes.
Okay. The second thing was, in Section 4 of this item, there's a lot of information there, but they mention an ad valorem tax, which I believe is a tax on the assessed value of homes and so forth. Does that mean we'll be taxed on this, I think, $62 million?
I don't know where that is in it. I'll check that, but no, there's not expected to be any tax specific to that garage, no.
It's in Section 4 of Item 4.
Okay, I don't have it with me.
Oh,
But I'll check that.
All right, and then the final thing, there were a lot of big words up here tonight, $11 million, $62 million, debt payment, bond, borrowing. Roy, you had mentioned, I can't think of the word now, the things that were ties.
What?
The ties that were damaged and lost and nobody used for years.
Floodgates?
John mentioned the
You're talking
tide
about
flex
the tide
valves.
flex valves.
Yes, that's what I mean. When something like that happens and things are wasted, shouldn't there be somebody in that department, whatever department it is, who takes care of it and realizes that they're missing or they're damaged or they're stolen or whatever has happened to them? And I'm not just talking about that particular department, but any department, because it does seem like waste does come up to this microphone sometimes. I don't mean the people are waste, I mean people talk about waste. So shouldn't somebody be in charge of that? And as Ken, you're doing some new things and changing some procedures, maybe that should be something too, to make sure that when things are purchased, somebody's in charge of them.
I agree with you. I'm in my 18th month, and this is an eye-popping experience.
I think a preventive maintenance program is something we need. I think Ken is looking into that. I would not say, if a Tide Flex valve is released from its positioning, I don't know if that's a fault of somebody. It could just be a piece of wood went into the sewer drain, hit it, knocked it loose. There are situations that would happen. I wouldn't say it's anyone's fault that it happens.
I understand that. I
It's
didn't mean
something
to
that
be
happens.
blaming someone. What I'm saying is when something comes in, somebody should be in charge of it, whatever it is. We're getting, I'm not talking about the valves in particular. I'm talking about the idea of waste and someone being in charge and responsible.
It's fair.
That's what I mean.
There's people are in charge of everything in the city has a department assigned to it. So there are people in charge. We have to get on a program of inspection and maintenance that gets done routinely.
Okay.
We happen to, I'll just add to what he's saying. We have a very, I think, a great city worker group that they work very hard and they do a lot with a little. We're always right on the cusp of solvency here for various reasons and for many years, for maybe decades. So I think that what is done, since I got here, sometimes it amazes me on the good end, and then there's things that, as you say, need to be managed perhaps more efficiently. But for the most part, we have excellent workers here in the city. And
Yes, I know many of them, and I agree. There
Yeah.
are many excellent workers
Right.
here in the city. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to close that then? We're halfway through.
All right. Our fourth public hearing is for the purpose of giving citizens an adequate opportunity to publicly present their views on the general summary of the proposed budget for the year July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026.
Okay, so this final public hearing is to finalize the operating budget for the fiscal year 2026. We had another public hearing 2 weeks ago, and this hearing is to clarify the budget and propose an errata sheet based on comments from most of the city council. Ina, I believe, has a short presentation to give, or you want to give that, or do you want me to give it? Why don't you give it? Okay.
So this presentation, next slide, please. It basically will take us from the proposed budget to the hopefully adopted budget. The increase in tax levy did not change. It's almost $3 million. Will the city be piercing its tax cap? No. Change in tax levy due to the tax base growth, new development is $1.4 million, and the property tax that's proposed in the budget will affect the median household by about $126.73 per year. Next slide. So following this slide, there will be an errata schedule. Errata is derived from Latin. It's a list of corrections appended after a regional publication. It's the official mechanism for the City Council to make changes to the proposed budget. 2026 proposed budget was adjusted. The general fund proposed use of fund balance was reduced in that short period of time. 2 weeks, we had learned that New York State budget, which was adopted after the proposal was published, had eliminated MTA commuter tax, and that was about $146,000 for the general fund, and then smaller material amounts for both water and sewer funds. So now we can take it out of the expenses. There were other expense items that were reduced or eliminated, and some revenues projections had increased in recreation and ice arena department. So if you can please move it to next slide. I don't know if you can see it from there, but the projected revenue for the recreation department is not for recreation department, for the ice arena department is projected to increase $80,000 as compared to the projected. There were some decreases in the tax surcharge claims proposed budget. Our tax assessor had estimated that it can be reduced by $50,000. Additional $130,000 reduction in the fire department overtime, $10,000 reduction in the installation dinner, and then, as I mentioned before, $146,000 elimination of MTA taxes. So that had allowed us to reduce the use of the fund balance now by $416,000. For the water fund and the sewer fund, their portion of the MTA taxes will be reduced respectively. In the water fund, that will be put into the fund balance, and in the sewer fund, that will increase contingency. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Ina. John, any questions?
I guess instead of a question, I guess instead of saying it when we take the vote, I guess I'll just kind of give my view of where we are right now. So obviously, people that were here at the last meeting know we had a rather lengthy discussion on this, and then in between meetings, I submitted quite a few questions to the comptroller and the city manager. We met, we went through them, and everything. So, needless to say, I've been racking my brain a lot the last 2 weeks over this. So, let's start with this. First thing people need to understand is this vote is actually purely symbolic. The way the charter is written right now, this budget goes into effect on July 1st, no matter how the 5 of us vote. That's the way the charter is written. It's been like that for years. So this is really just a kind of a symbolic vote. The control right now the council has is whether we do an errata sheet or not, which Ina just showed you. That's what we're doing. One of the things I tried to do last month is put a charter change through that would actually require that if the budget did not pass, that the spending levels are frozen at the current year's levels until the city does pass a budget. But that takes basically the city manager and the comptroller putting together a contingency plan and a contingency budget, and last month was kind of too late in the budget process to do that, so we postponed that this year, but we'll be taking that legislation forward, or I will next month. But it's kind of a follow-up to where we are. So if you look at the budget basically is a 5.1% tax increase. But the city manager and the comptroller believe they have budgeted conservatively, and that revenues may come in better than budgeted and expenses may come in under what's budgeted. And if that works, that's great. They're a hero because they turned a 5% tax increase into a 2.5% tax increase. And it's a gamble. It is certainly a gamble. But if they pull it off, it's great because our taxes are going up half of what the budget said they should go up. The flip side to that is if it doesn't work and we dip into the reserve fund, we're setting ourselves up for one whopper of a tax increase next year, because then we would have to make up next year what we took out of the reserve fund this year, plus the normal $3 million or so in expense increases that we have in any given year. So we could already be starting $5 million in the hole next year, which, like I said, would result in a big increase. The other issue is if we tap into the reserve fund, One of the reasons we got 4 Moody's credit rating upgrades over those 2 years is because of building up the reserve fund. So it risks us getting a downgrade, which means it'll increase our borrowing costs, which means more debt service, which means higher taxes. So the question becomes, and this is, I will say, what I've been racking my brains out with, is the juice worth the squeeze? In other words, how confident are we that Ina and Dan can manage the budget and not dip into the reserve fund and keep that tax increase down? And that's really kind of the issue right now. Now, like I said, any way the 5 of us vote tonight, it won't matter. This budget's going into effect. It's it. So like I said, it's purely symbolic, but I think people need to understand is what we're doing here. Again, city manager, comptroller are trying to keep our taxes as low as humanly possible. This is an interesting plan, and if it works, like I said, they're going to be heroes because they cut the taxes in half of what it would have been otherwise. Question is, can they do it? So that's kind of what I've been racking my brain over the last couple of weeks and kind of the issues we discussed when we met. And so really not a question. I just want people to understand the process and kind of what's at stake here.
Thank you. Roy, do you have a question?
I just want to correct something, John. No matter what what happens with the budget, with the taxes, the increase we vote on stays the same. No matter what happens, we will still be taxed what we would be voting on. Okay, next year it would be better, no question about it, but the tax, if Dan's a hero, the tax still stays the same because that can't be changed once we vote on it. I do have one question. I'm going to reserve most of my comments for when I vote, but the question when you're talking about the tax base growth, okay, as our assessed value increases, we have more money theoretically coming in. If it increased by $1.4 million, is that right? Assessed value. That's just assessed value,
yes.
not the appraised
That's
value.
the tax base.
And what is our tax rate right now on the assessed value? I think it's 160.
I think it's in the resolution itself. One second, I'm sorry. So it's proposed to be 24.9%, and it is 97.5% of it right now, so I can do a quick calculation. I don't remember on the top of my head what the rate right now, but are you asking me what's the rate in this fiscal year?
What I'm trying to get at is because we had an increased assessed value, if the tax rate for everybody was not changed at all, we would still have more money.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how much more the assessed value, the increase in assessed value added to our coffers? That's, I guess, what I'm asking. And I know it's formulas that, they're secret formulas, so to speak.
They're not that secret.
I know.
They're
I'm
not
just
that
kidding you,
secret.
Ina.
So
Wait, I think Ray, you know this stuff.
You want Ray to answer. Go ahead. Which presentation?
I just don't have it in front of me. I know when I get my tax bill, I pay a certain amount on the assessed value of my house. I thought it was 160%, but I'm sure. I can't hear you at all.
That helped.
Key points. I got the key points.
Before the errata sheet.
No, not the errata sheet, the key points. I'm just, we had a total assessed value because of the increase of value in the city. I'm just curious what that increased value comes out to for additional money to the city. If there was nothing changed, nothing else changed.
If there was no additional development, what you're asking is if there was no additional development, how much the taxes would go up by?
No, I'm asking the $1.4 million in assessed value is equivalent to what amount of tax income?
That is tax dollars.
So because of the increased value, we have $1.4 million additional.
In tax dollars, yes. That's
Okay.
increased the levy. That's the increase to the levy that did not require increase to the tax rate.
Rate. Okay, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
So initially, we started out $1.4 million ahead in this budget.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was asking.
Thank you again, Dan and Ina. You guys have really worked very hard, very diligently on this budget, and I think what people don't understand, John referenced it a moment ago, you know, they have their full-time jobs. So do we. So you guys have been very open to our late-night phone calls and emergency meetings. So thank you again. With over $4 million in additional costs, which we really went through last week, I don't want to go through every detail again. You know, health insurance, property insurance, contractual pensions. I really applaud some out-of-the-box thinking here to stay at the tax cap. We will not be piercing the tax cap. You know, a lot of numbers was, you know, were said last week. You know, is it going to be a 6? Is it 6%? Is 5? No, it's not that number. The residents are not piercing the tax cap. It's well below that, and that's thanks to this out-of-the-box thinking. We're not going to have the residents balance the budget again. They have paid and paid and paid. We already put this on the residents again and again. We pay a premium to live here in Long Beach. We have the cleanest beaches. We have the best police department. We have an incredible fire department. Our CSE workers are the best. They get the job done. So we are not going to take away services or start taking people away. So this is the way that we balance the budget, and we're betting on ourselves. I really truly believe we will increase revenues. I mean, you've heard a few of the ideas already here tonight. It will be a short-term effect on the fund balance. And Ina, you mentioned it at our last hearing. You feel that the percentage that we're taking out of this fund balance shouldn't, I mean, nothing's locked, but shouldn't affect our rating. And that's kind of how we judged, and that's how we picked, not how we, how you and Dan picked that number, because we did not want to affect, and you thought that this was the best route.
And Mike, just a comment, we won't have to touch the fund balance unless we need to.
Right.
So it won't even come out till the end. This is just the budgeting process, and we have explanations for the bond rating companies about why we think we will not need to tap into those funds.
Right. So, thank you for your work, but again, the most important thing is that we're taking some of the burden off the taxpayer, so thank you for coming up with some new ways of thinking.
Thank you.
Mike?
If I may, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
If I may say that it's not just the usage of fund balance that had balanced this budget, it's also managing to keep all the discretionary costs that we can have impact on under control. So, for example, if you're talking about the overtime salaries in fiscal year 2025 were budgeted at, I'm going to talk about both overtime and holiday pay, at $4.8 million. They are budgeted at $4.9 million for fiscal 2026. That increase is so much lower than the increase in the salaries that's going to be paid to that's going to be paid to the union and non-union employees. So, and that's a testament of how the projects are controlled, how the workflow is controlled, and how it's Dan's real work with the departments and the unions.
Thank you. Chris, you
Yeah, I just want to echo what everybody said. I think everybody up here had something positive to say, and I want to thank you guys and echo what Mike just said. Thank you very much for thinking out of the box. As an independent business person, I bet on myself every day, so I like the more conservative approach like this of underestimating what could be and betting on ourselves instead of doing a major tax increase to the residents, because once that's done, it's done. You're never getting the money back. I just want to clarify, so I know I'm right here on this. With all the money taken away, I know we lost, how much would FR be? 2.5 million or something? Right?
Yep. 2.4.
2.4 million we lost in funding, and with everything else and the pensions due and all of that. I think you guys did an incredible job. And like Mike said earlier, I'm not blowing smoke. I sincerely mean that. I would say it publicly if I thought different. But isn't the tax increase, it's actually about 2% and change, not 5%? Because
I think
To the tax cap.
I think what
It's to the
John
cap.
was referencing is the
usage,
increase
yes.
in expenses.
Exactly.
Right?
Okay.
You were referencing the year-to-year increase in expenses versus the tax increase.
No. What I
is-
was referencing is without the influx from the reserve fund, the tax levy increase is 5.1%. The influx from the reserve fund brings it down to 2.5%.
Got it. So you're talking about the subsidy. So but in reality,
Correct.
on the tax.
So what we're doing is we're basically
subsidizing.
tapping into
Yeah.
our surplus from previous years
Right.
to bring the tax increase down.
That's wanted to make sure that was correct. So it is under the cap, right? We reached the goal?
Yes.
Okay.
It's actually about $70,000 under the cap.
Good job. Thank you very much. Sincerely, thank you.
I'd just like to comment on the errata sheet that you've already presented, and having spoken to you and Dan about it a couple of times this week, in the past 2 weeks. John wasn't the only guy losing sleep over this. I think everybody up here probably was. But I think this errata sheet and the money that you basically showed here, I'm very grateful that you guys did this. I mean, of course, it's your job, but you did an excellent job of lessening that hit into the general fund, and I think that's important to note. They have a plan, and their plan is to not prematurely tax the residents, to tax the taxpayers unnecessarily. The idea is, for us to try to at least generate revenue, which a few people have come up and said, and it's absolutely true. And the projections for the revenue generation are not pie in the sky by any means. In fact, they're very low. So I really commend you two and everybody else in your office for doing a good job on this, because we've kept the tax rate, the tax down for the residents, and most likely, and there's risk in everything, but most likely, we will not have to tap into that fund. And we will come out of this stronger at the end of this fiscal year. So thank you very much for what you did. Dave, you have something to say?
No.
I know.
Dave's
Yeah, no,
gonna
so
comment.
at this time, I'd like to see if somebody would like to make a motion to incorporate the errata sheet into the proposed budget.
I will. We're going to incorporate the errata sheet into the.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
Vice President Fiamora.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll open this to the public. commentary, questions? Tim, come on down.
Hi, Tim Kramer. My wife said I talk too loud, so I'll try and tone it down. So I just wanted to echo a couple of things. First of all, with with the 5%, you put the 5% in the budget, like Chris said, it's gone, never to see it again, and so I like how this council is really gambling on yourselves and gambling on the city. On the city employment to really try and bring this home, and I really appreciate that. So I just wanted to note a few things why, as a resident, as a taxpaying resident, why it's difficult to support a government this size. If you look at the construct of the city, I'm talking about the city itself, not the government. The budget has almost doubled in 15 years. Number one, the city also is the largest employer in the city by far. The next largest non-government business in the city is Stop and Shop at 131 employees.
Not the Jenny.
The next largest we'll call it a high-wage business in the high-wage business, non-government, is Lancer Insurance. And I noticed on the budget that we have down there as 406 employees. The 406 employees for Lancer Insurance is for the entire company. In fact, if you look on their LinkedIn page, it'll show that there are 72 employees that work in the Long Beach branch. So the city of Long Beach, the government of city of Long Beach, is 8x on the next largest high-wage non-government business. So, and then you also throw in things like we're geographically challenged. We're not, going to get bigger in any direction. You look at the West End. Since Hurricane Sandy, you took your $7,000 a year bungalow, turned it, per year tax, turned it into a $21,000 a year tax property. So I guess my rambling overall point is that as a taxpayer of this city, it's a real challenge to support a government this size. And I am going to reiterate again that it's vitally, critically important that we squeeze out new revenue streams, and that's it. That's my deal. So
Got that right under the wire, Tim. Excellent.
So Tim, one thing I just want to point out too is we're going to do everything we can to increase revenue. We had a good meeting just recently with some developers about a potential marina and other issues that we're looking at, how to redevelop, et cetera. We're looking at reducing costs all the time. I just do want to point out that in 15 years, if it doubled, that's a rate of 4.7%, which is a little higher than what the tax cap would be, but it's not astronomical and out of the ordinary for a budget to double in 15 years. If that's an average rate of about 4.7%. So it's not like it's raising a much higher percentage than you think. It's not great. Could always be better. And that also includes in there the Haberman, decision and part of the rates that we were increasing. So just want to let you know what that is. Thanks.
That's an egg we don't want to crack tonight. Eileen?
Eileen Hession, I'm sorry I've been up here a lot. I wish more people would show up when we're talking about a budget, the most important thing that can happen in our city. My question is about the reserve fund. I know you're trying to reduce costs, but I know with the tariffs coming, people are afraid that everything is going to cost more. If you need a piece of wood, it's going to cost more, whatever. So reducing costs is going to be a real challenge for you. And so prices are up, And then I always look to how we've done with the beach. Every year we lose, I think, $1 million. I know you have a lot of plans in place. I've seen where the booths are and so forth. So I just have my fingers crossed that you will be able to reduce costs and, bring in some more money. But about the reserve fund, I think from the last meeting, don't we have a fire and police contract coming up?
We've had a fire contract for 14 years coming up, and the police contract was settled,
Still coming.
I believe.
No,
3 years ago?
Police contract was last year. CSCA is
Sorry,
coming.
CSCA is this
Fire.
year, yeah. So,
Does that money is not in the budget because it hasn't been decided. So does that come out of the reserve fund?
that would come out of the contingency or reserve fund.
Okay,
Yes.
because I know, just like every other business, the most expensive thing you pay for is money. I mean, people. People who work here is our biggest expense.
Mhm.
So if we have contracts coming up, that's going to be a lot of money. And do we have enough in the reserve fund if you do settle those contracts?
Absolutely.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I think we can close that.
Nobody else?
Thank you.
On to the calendar. Item 1 is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding water and water distribution. A hearing's been held on this item already. Item 2 is a local law amending the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding sewer rents. A hearing's been held on this item already. Item 3 is a resolution authorizing the adoption of a capital improvement program for 5 years from July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2030 inclusive. A hearing's been held on this item already. Item 4 is a resolution authorizing the adoption of the operating budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026, appropriating sums set forth therein and determining and fixing the real estate tax levy. A hearing has been held on this item already. Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept a charitable donation.
All right, so this item allows us to accept a charitable donation from Harvey Wiesenberg for ADA accessible doors at the Recreation Center. I would like to personally thank Harvey for his generous donation. It will be a well-received improvement to the Recreation Center.
Okay, questions or comments from the council?
Just to thank Harvey for his donation. He's always been generous with us, with the city.
Yeah, and for something as important as being ADA compliant, it's so important, so I'm glad we're able to use this charitable donation to something that is so important to so many residents.
Harvey is Long Beach's natural resource, so very grateful for him. All right, from the public commentary, yes. Mindy. I'm sorry, I saw her first. That makes sense, right?
Hi, I just would like to say for the record, as someone that used to be in a wheelchair and going to the rec center for the very first time for the Garen Hagen Memorial, pulling open that door was very difficult for me. So it really brings me joy to hear that Harvey, as he does amazing things for this city and always has, so I just wanted to make that mention. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
James here in our great city. Just wanted to thank second dad to me, Harvey Wiesenberg, for his generous donations, as he always do. When I was working at the recreation, that's one of the things that we always spoke about, and that's being able to, you're having so many people come there that have, you know, different issues with canes and wheelchairs and the doors. They had to pull open. So it's good to hear this taking place. Actually, that lobby area is in his honor and his name.
Yeah, right.
And so I just like to thank him as he, you know, continue to donate and help our whole city out. He is truly a Long Beach hero. And I'd like to just give him his flowers while he's alive and he can hear them. I tell him all the time, you know. And so again, thank you, Harvey. And thank the city for accepting it and also working on those doors. So again, thank you, Harvey Wiesenberg.
All right, thank you. I think we can close that. All right, thank you.
Okay,
Harvey.
Item 6 is also a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept a charitable donation.
So this is another charitable donation, allows us to accept a donation for 4 temporary floodlights at the Magnolia Fishing Pier from Jared Siegelman. I would like to personally thank Jared for his generous donation in the memory of his deceased father, who frequented the fishing pier, and this means a lot to him to help the pier out. So thank you to Jared.
Okay. Comments from the council?
Just thank you again. Thank you to the Siegelman family. It does get very dark there, so it's much appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's,
All right, I think we're all in unison here. Thank you to the Siegelman family, and the fish probably thank you too. I don't know if they get caught,
It'll
right?
probably make the crabbing better.
Yeah, the crabbing, right? Yeah.
That's right, they went to the lights.
They like the lights.
Okay, well, out to the public, any comments? All right, James?
Just quickly, every time someone gives a donation and I can stand up and thank them, they don't have to. They're giving out of their personal family money, their hard work, their company, and as a resident, I know the city officials thank them, but as a resident, I just want to thank anyone that gives a dime, who volunteers, who give. And so I thank this family for, again, giving in honor of their loved one, and we appreciate them. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, total agreement. I think we can close that.
Okay, item 7 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase dispatch center furniture for the police department under HGAC by contract.
So as mentioned, this item allows us to buy dispatch center furniture for the police department under a cooperative buying agreement. This project is being partially funded by a grant from my generous partners in the county. Thank you to Pat Mullaney and Bruce Blakeman for supporting and continuing to support our police department. I have Rich DePalma here to answer any questions you may have.
John?
Nope.
Roy?
No, Rich, you answered most of my questions. Thank you.
Mike?
Thank you. We had a pre-meet, and that was very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to you guys before spending time with us and showing us everything. Thank you.
I'll make my own comment that it's probably a long time coming. This upgrade is necessary for all the workers that work for you there, particularly the dispatchers. Anybody who's listened to dispatchers handle radio frequencies with police on it, and EMS and fire, they deserve a lot of credit, and the good ones are awesome. And just about all of them, they do the best they can. So they need the right equipment. So from the council, we don't have any questions. Do we have some from the public? Comments from the public? All right. You're off the hook, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Item 8 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for professional race timing and event services with the sole bidder.
Okay, so the last item allows us to enter into a contract with Elite Feats for professional race timing services. We contacted other vendors because this was the only vendor that responded to the RFP to ask why they did not bid on the contract. We were basically told by everybody else we contacted that they could not compete with Elite's pricing, which remained the same for this contract year, so they did not increase their rates. If you have any further questions, I do have Joe Brand here to answer anything you may have.
Okay. Mike? Chris?
I'm okay.
John? Roy, you've got, no?
Roy, you have a question.
Roy's probably run more races than anybody I know.
But they do a good job.
Okay. I'll just make my own comment. About 30 years ago or more, I had to be the promoter of the NYPD pipe band 5-mile race in Flushing Meadow Park, and it was disastrous for many reasons. My incompetence was part of it, but because it was the first time I ever did it. But also, they had renovated the park, and they had to redo the route, and I had to do it with a wheel, and I rode my bike. I ran it once. I did it about 4 times to make sure I had it right, because runners are very finicky about the exact measurements, right? So getting a good promoter to run the races and make sure everything comes out right is really important.
And fast. They want to see the results the minute they finish.
Oh, I'll tell you the rest of that story later. Okay, so we have no comments from the public, or do we? All right, you're off the
Thanks,
hook,
Joe.
Commissioner.
All right. On to the voting.
Wow. I
All
thought
right.
we'd never get there.
So, item 1 is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding water and water distribution. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
I understand how important water is. I also understand we don't pay for the actual water. The water comes from the aquifer. What we do is we pay for the cost of the manpower, of the pipes, and stuff like that. So when we talk about the cost of water, all we're really talking about is the labor involved and the piping and the filtering. Raising the water almost 42% in 2 years, to me, is just not conscionable. I think for the taxpayers, they're struggling enough, and things are not going to get better. And I know there was a Newsday in an article, in Newsday, the other day about the number of people that are really going hungry in Long Island. And it's pretty devastating. And we just keep raising things and raising things. And one of the things that you learn when you're a kid is if you can't afford it, you do without. But that doesn't happen here. And I just, in good conscience, cannot vote for a 42% increase. And granted, it's over 2 years, I'll grant that, but it's still a big, big increase. I vote no.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Just as the water fund, just as the rest of the world, we've had a lot of increases. Water is very important, as you stated. So it's the nature of the beast. Yes.
Vice President Fiamora.
Yes.
President Finn.
I remember when the water ladies became council people because of the water revolution that happened in town. I think if you, Roy, you probably remember it, and Dave, but that's about it. And who would ever think we'd be paying that much money for water? But on the other side of the coin, what's the alternative? You know, do you present an alternative?
Cutting.
Yeah. Cutting what?
Cutting labor, cutting materials.
Yeah, I've yet to have a conversation with you about that.
How many times have I come up here and said there are cheaper ways of doing things?
Okay.
There
No.
are cheaper ways of doing
Yeah,
things.
okay. I'm voting yes for this because we don't have an alternative, but we have a plan, okay? We have a plan, so things are going to get better. I believe things are going to get better because we have a plan. We want to increase revenue. We're going to work on increasing revenue and more effective management. So, I mean, I'm voting yes, obviously, because water is important. So, thank you.
Item 2 is a local law amending the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding sewer rents. Who introduced and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second, thank you. Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
The sewer rent is going down, so you got to vote for that.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
I thought there was a good line item in Ken Arnold's capital plan where it said in 2 years' time the funding needed for the sewer was zero. No overhead. Yes.
Vice President Fiamora.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Item 3 is a resolution authorizing adoption of the capital improvement program for 5 years from July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2030 inclusive. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
I'll second it.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
The capital plan is one of the most expensive things we have in this town. And I also understand that if you build on sand, you're always going to have a real big problem with infrastructure. I'm not happy with it, but we have to keep up with the infrastructure. And the truth of the matter is, this particular plan, as every year, is so flexible and so in flux because of the different things that happen in the city, that, you know, it's something we need the money for, but I hate spending this kind of money, but I'm going to vote yes.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Thank you, Ken Arnold, for paving a new way. Yes.
Vice President Fiormaro.
Yes.
President Finn.
And just to echo that, I said it previously, you've gotten up to speed very quickly. I appreciate what you put together in this capital plan. There is a lot of flexibility in it, and it will fluctuate, but it's what we need to do. We have to upgrade the city because the quality of life is important. So yes.
Item 4 is a resolution authorizing the adoption of the operating budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026, appropriating sums set forth therein and determining and fixing the real estate tax levy. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item as amended?
I will.
Second?
Second.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
So, this sheet of paper here are my notes on this vote. Half of this page is why I should vote for this budget. Half is why I should vote against, which tells you, you know, the thought that's gone into this. And like I said, this vote is purely symbolic because this is going into effect. And as I was doing my research for this, I looked at some of the campaign flyers from the previous city council election and that flooded our mailboxes. And, you know, all of them were filled with promises of freezing taxes and cutting spending. And the fact is, you know, the five of us sitting up here now are dealing with the reality of what it takes to run this city. And the simple fact is, it's a beast and it's expensive to run this city. So, like I said, even though it's symbolic, the question is, do I have faith that our city manager and our comptroller can execute their plan and not dip into the reserve fund? Because, quite frankly, out of the people sitting up here right now, I'm the guy who did all the work to get that reserve fund built up. Now, I didn't do it alone. Ina was a part of that. But I'm the guy. We have a reserve fund to dip into because of the tough decisions we made previously. So obviously I'm a little sensitive about dipping into that money. But that being said, you know, I've worked with Ina now for many years and working with Dan for the last year and a half. At this point, I think the wise thing to do is to bet on Dan and Ina that they're going to pull their plan off. So I will vote yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Over my years on the school board and here, I've voted on a lot of budgets. It's been my experience that once you vote for a budget, once you give the money there, you rarely get money back. And I don't, you know, listen, I have a lot of faith in Dan, but I really don't see that particularly happening. Now, you heard up here that we've done a lot to cut the taxes. It's really easy to cut the taxes. You just spend the money that you have saved. You could get this down to zero, just spend more money. But what good is that? We got ourselves out of a real mess by accumulating this money, and now to go into it, I think is the wrong thing to do. Now, I understand that we don't have enough money really to run this city. And people keep talking about, well, we have to do more to generate income. Well, first of all, who do you think that income's going to be generated off the backs of? I mean, you know, we can generate income. You saw it today. We raised the water. We're generating more income. Is that what we're looking for? For a long time, and I know anybody who's been coming to this meeting has watched me, I have voted time and time and time again against spending money. That's the only way we're going to get out of this. Yes, we are going to have more money when we build houses and build big buildings, You know, you heard Ina say, we have $1.4 million more this year because of the property values went up. That's great. But look at the budget. What do you see cut in this budget? Where do you see that we're saving? And, you know, how many times have I said, well, we could save money this way. We don't have to spend money this way. It's just constant. And you know, I feel like I'm crying in the wilderness on this. We're really good about raising money, but we're not good about cutting money. And I think by doing this, by saying, let's go into our savings, we're just going to create more of a mess, and we're never going to learn to cut. Like I said a few minutes ago, when a family doesn't have money coming in, they don't go out and say, hey, I want money from my neighbors. They cut. They stop spending money. And I'm not talking necessarily about manpower. We spend money on a lot of things. You know, just the idea of painting, and this was one of the things, and, you know, I'm not saying we're doing it now, painting a water tower, $1 million. Drilling a well, $4 million. Buying a generator that you can buy on Amazon for $50,000, for $350,000. Even the simplest little things like stainless steel bolts that you can buy at Home Depot for 32 cents, we pay $1 for. It's constant like that, constant, and I bring it up all the time, and as you see, I'm usually the only no vote. But I can't vote for this budget when we're taking money out of what we've saved. Yes, it can bring down the tax rate. Why not try to bring down the tax rate by cutting a little, by spending a little less money? I'm voting no on this.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
So yeah, I think in any campaign there's a lot of campaign flyers. But last year we did have a 0% tax increase. And I think as the council as a whole, we were proud of that. The fund balance is where it's at because us, the taxpayers, paid for it. There was a cumulative tax increase of 29.1% 4 years previous. So we feel that the taxpayer has shouldered enough of the burden. So we're looking at ways to take that off their backs a bit. I think what Dan and Ina has done is they're doing that. They know that it's very difficult on everyone. So we're trying to take a little bit off of that while being responsible. And that's the goal. Yes, of course, I'm voting for this.
Vice President Fiamara.
Yeah, most of you who know me, you know, I'm not a political person, campaign flyers and this and that. I came in here with a goal. I think that goal is, we're right there. We're at the finish line. I mean, year one was 0%, and if you want to spread this out over the 2 years, it's 1.25%, which I'll take any day. And I think there isn't a person in here who disagree with me. You would take that over 29% over 4 years. So I'm much happy with this direction, not taking away anybody's previous work or whatnot. But Roy, when you mentioned about generating income, and you said to the crowd that it's, where do you think that's going to come from? And I heard some claps. I just want to let people know for the claps that it's not coming from you. What's going to come from you is your hard-earned tax dollars that you pay to live in this city. Your city's now going to pay back to you because we're going to use the assets of this city. We have a bay and a beach. We don't have a single marina. We talked about a parking garage that, you know, could probably conservatively spit off 7 figures a year. We could do a marina that can bring in 7 figures a year, can offset our tax base tremendously. That's generating income. There's a much big difference between generating income from profits than taxing people. That's taxing people. We're going to generate income. So I have no problem dipping into the reserve fund, hence the word reserve and why it's there, to gamble on myself, my past experience of what I've done as an individual, instead of putting that on you guys as taxpayers and myself as a taxpayer who owns, you know, properties in town. So, yes, I'm absolutely voting yes, and I'm very proud of everybody who helped us get to where we are. Thank you.
President Finn.
I'm just going to add to that. We didn't raise taxes last year, and we didn't dip into the general fund, the reserve fund. Okay, that was done without dipping into that fund. This year, Dan and Ina and the city was faced with about $2.1 million in fees and taxes and issues, pension, health insurance, property insurance, that they had no control over. We had no control over. So that's $2.1 million right off the bat, whether we make cuts or don't make cuts. So that's something that had to be addressed, and it's one of the issues that had to be dealt with. Dan has done an excellent job of managing effectively a pretty large, as people have pointed out, city worker government. I think he's done a really great job of reining in expenses in many different ways. And Ina has been here a number of years and understands the system, and I have the confidence in what she has put out there, and she has the confidence. As to dipping into this fund, this is, I believe, and Dan has said it, Ina has said it, that we plan on making the revenue. They're not crazy projections. They're not pie in the sky. That we will make the revenue up this year or very close to it, where we may not even have to dip into that general fund. Okay? You talk about a mess, getting out of a mess. One of the ways to get out of the mess was taxing the public, premature taxing. Once you pay a tax, you never get that money back. So rather than tax the residents in the hopes that we can make revenue, we're going to do the best we can to not tax you and work it out with revenue. And you talk about a mess. There are ways to avoid a mess, and that mess was avoidable. Haberman was avoidable. It was very avoidable, and it was avoidable because it happened because no one took the initiative to try and head that off at the pass. And I'll leave it at that. I didn't want to go into the past, but we go into the past. So of course I'm voting yes because I think it's a good budget.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept a charitable donation. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
I'll second it.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
Vice President Fiamora.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Item 6 is also a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept a charitable donation. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second.
Second.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
Vice President Fiamora.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Item 7 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase dispatch center furniture for the police department under HGAC buy contract. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will. I'll second it.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
This is exactly like one of the things I was talking about. If anybody looked at the attachments, we're paying for things like a aluminum power pole. That's to run wires up. It's $193. We're paying for a convenience outlet plate with 6 data ports. You've all seen them at Home Depot. We're paying $86 for that. We're paying for a USB, a 3.0 Keystone coupler. I looked them up on the internet. They're about anywhere from $5 to $11. We're paying $41 a piece. We're paying for an ambient light dimmer switch. You've seen those at Home Depot too. We're paying $207 a piece for those. And we're also paying for a cup holder. It's under the surface, it's rotating. We're paying $114 for those. The entire thing is costing us $58,000. And what it is, it's duplicating almost exactly what we have on the 6th floor in the OEM building, and this is for the police department. The police department needs this stuff. There's no question about it. And I was told, well, you have to have all sorts of protections because people spill stuff, and you know, it's valuable equipment and all sorts of other things. But you know what? There are a lot of businesses that run a lot of computers, and you know, they don't have to have this kind of protection. The delivery, we're buying this stuff from a company, the delivery alone is $5,700. The installation is $9,200, and then the reinstallation of the radio console is $8,000. Granted, some of this is grant funded, but I look at this and I talk about taxes and I talk about using money that we should be saving, and I just can't see it. And I think we have the greatest police department anywhere and the greatest commissioner. But our job is supposed to be to watch the money. And I can't vote for something like this. I'm voting no.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Just to clarify something, this is grant funded from Nassau County. How much is it, Dan?
This part of the grant, this part is funded completely by the grant.
Completely. Okay. So this is being funded from a Nassau County grant, and obviously there are, and Commissioner DePalma was kind enough to take us into the OEM. Let us look at this. This is, you know, just so everybody knows, this is not like going to Staples and buying a new desk that we put in our kids' room. This is some, you know, heavy-duty equipment that has to operate 24/7, 365 days a year to make sure that we are all safe. This goes through, municipalities go through procurement laws. This had to be RFP'd. There were 3 bids. We went with the lowest bid. I am voting yes.
Vice President Fiamora.
Yeah, I just want to be 100% clear, and Ina, maybe you can, Dan, I think you answered. This is 100% funded by a grant, correct? Nassau County is funding this?
I believe this portion is fully funded. The whole project is not fully funded,
Well,
but this
that's no
portion of
project. I'm
equipment.
saying the cost of the items we're talking about.
Yes, the line in the capital budget that this is coming from is completely grant funded.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear to the taxpayers so you're not misinformed, because I also am very conscious of money and how we spend money. So, you know, it's grant money, and it's, I mean, besides the grant money, I don't believe there's a price on safety. So when you call 911, you want a dispatcher there. So I'm going to vote yes on that one.
President Finn.
This is an easy one. There's one place I refuse to scrimp, and that's on safety. The safety of the city, of the people of the city, is paramount. You really can't put a price tag on safety. Sometimes you might want to do that, but you can't. You try to save money where you can, but you don't scrimp on safety. You don't scrimp on the police department. You don't scrimp on the fire department. You just don't do that, okay? Especially when it's free. I mean, it comes with some sort of attachments, but this is a grant, so it's pretty easy. We got to look out for the residents of the city, so yes.
Item 8 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for professional race timing and event services with the sole bidder. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second.
I wanted to second it, Roy.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
Vice President Fiamora.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
One piece of housekeeping before I call for the motion to close. Since the budget and the capital plan have been adopted, the optional meeting that was on the schedule as if needed for next Tuesday is canceled. So there'll be no special meeting of the council next week.
All right.
Okay, city managers, unless you guys want to show up. I mean.
Oh, shucks.
City manager's monthly personnel report has been filed by the city clerk, who will make a motion to close the meeting.
I will.
I'll second it.
Second, thank you.
There was a couple seconds I heard.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
Vice President Fiamora.
Yes.
President Fed.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Now for the moment we've all been waiting for. Happy time. I know. I won't keep you waiting. All right.
Congrats, Ed. He retired.
Who?
We put in his paper again.
Congratulations.
Happy retirement.
Danielle DiPaolo. Come on down.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
I wanted to bring up an item that was spoken about at last meeting, and that was the ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinance of the City of Long Beach Buildings Code. So in this, I'd like to know, why is this section of 7.256 being removed? There's quite a bit of it that was being removed. So we were given this last meeting. So you're all going to be voting on this on June 3rd?
There's a public hearing for that at the next meeting. That's when that's when this discussion.
I just don't want them to be voting on it before my questions are kind of
Yeah, there's a
asked.
public hearing scheduled for the next meeting for that
Okay.
item.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Well, my other question, so I'll reserve all these till next meeting. My second
Can't wait.
question is for the buildings department. The last communication on Shortgren's building of 643 Shore Road was last told to the community on April 24th, that the buildings commissioner told Shortgren he had within 2 weeks to get the illegal driveway removed. It's still there. There has been no removal of the illegal driveway. That time frame has now been lapsed. Should have been the week of the 8th, if that's what the buildings commissioner gave, and nothing's been done. So now it's the 20th of May. Kind of curious, as the neighbors on that street, what's going on? Where's the accountability?
Are you looking for someone from the public to answer that for you? Or you
No, I'm
want-
looking for Scott. Where is he? He left?
So we have the right after the end of that to chip it out ourselves, replace the concrete, and back charge him for it. There are other priorities in the city right now, so we haven't focused on that yet.
Okay, just from what I was told to relay to the neighbors, that was, the last conversation was the 24th, and we were told within a 2-week time frame that Scott had given Shortgren, because before that, his excuse was the workers, that he contracted to do the original work went on to a different job. So I know you're running in circles with Shortgren.
Yeah, well, right now with the beach opening or whatever, our focus is on that right now. But if he doesn't remove it by the time we're ready to remove it, we'll remove it and back charge him.
Now, is there any violation that could be charged or fines? Because when you're talking about
Yes.
money, okay.
Yes,
All
and
right.
we could actually, we have the ability to what's called stack it, but that's unlikely that we would do that. But we do have the ability to do it by
Okay.
a resolution we made last year.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks for your questions. Wanda Brooks?
Evening, Wanda Brooks.
Good evening.
A few questions pertaining to the water meters. They said that we are getting grants for the water meters. How would the funds be distributed? How much do we have to spend before they reimburse us?
So I don't have those numbers with me, but I could get them to you, Wanda. The grant would just cover a certain portion of the money, and what happens is we spend the money for the whole project, and they reimburse us whatever the amount is that's in the grant. Like I said, I don't have that number with me, but I could get that for you. And it's basically, we have to spend it first anyway before we could get reimbursed it.
Oh, all of it?
Yeah. Well, we could probably get partial payments up front for that.
And what happens if for some reason we do not get this grant? With the economy and everything as it is, we counting on this 100%?
Oh, I don't think it's 100%
Keeping our
grant.
fingers crossed.
Yeah, I don't think it's 100% grant, but, oh, you mean, are we getting it 100%? I think it was already awarded, so I don't think it's money that they could take back. I think the federal government, a lot of that money that's being taken back is ones that have not yet been awarded, but we're in process of being awarded. I don't think we're at risk on this one, but there's, you never know what.
And I'd like to know if the new water meters are compatible with the system that's inside the building.
Part of the overall water meter replacement system is upgrading the infrastructure inside the building.
Inside
so
also?
Yeah.
Okay.
So with the collection services will be tied in together with the water metering system.
And do we really need these meters?
Yeah, they definitely have a useful life, and you see a big difference in what they're registering over time.
How long is the lifespan?
Usually 20 years, and I think these are 25 years old.
This will be my last.
Okay, I think.
Just being honest.
And they said that Hempstead is going through the same process as we will be going through. Are there any more municipalities that have already gone through?
I don't have the answer with you now, but I know when we were doing the evaluation of the meters, we looked at all the other municipalities and which ones they were successful with and which ones they liked. So there's a lot of them that have been done out there, including us, say, 25 years ago. But we did look at all the municipalities who recently did it and wanted to get their feedback on what types of meters they used and what their experiences are since they put them in, to make sure that we weren't getting something that we put in, we think is great, and then ends up a nightmare to manage. So we did look at everybody through the design process.
Could we get that information, that feedback from the other?
I think we can share with you if you come in and give it to you. I don't think we'll spread it, I don't think it's something that we'll just put out publicly, all the research that was done. I'm not sure. I mean, we can, but it'd be difficult to put together in a package to cover everybody's questions.
And any idea how long the higher cost will be for the new meters before we see any of it going down, any of the costs going down?
It's hard to say. It depends on what's going on. My preference over time would be to start replacing all of the water piping in the city, which would be astronomically expensive. But it would clean up the issue with brown water. The water piping here is very old. It breaks frequently unless you have a systematic approach of replacing all the water lines in the city, which is grants that we are going to be looking to get. There's going to be no real solution to that problem until we start replacing, all around the city, the water piping. So the question is whether we want to give the money back or plan for a bigger project such as that. We also have some projects that are going out to put what's called SCADA on our water wells to try to prevent the infiltration of saltwater intrusion. So we want to try to buy more time on that. Eventually that will come. It's an inevitability, but we could delay it for an extra, say, 5 or 10 years if we plan it right. So there are projects, and then, God forbid we do get saltwater infiltration, we'll have to look at either desalination or some other means of bringing water to, and all that has to hit the water fund. Not to mention we have a water tower that has to be replaced. Some upgrades that are definitely needed. The system as we have it now has been neglected for a while, and we need to get it up to speed. And that, unfortunately, is what the water bills pay for.
And are we just putting the water meters to us, the residents, or we're going to the commercial buildings and hotels and?
So it's multiple phases. We're starting with the residential community first because they're easier to do. In all honesty, they're easier to install.
That's why you're starting with us first.
The second phase will be the larger buildings to make sure that we get those ones done. Those ones are much more expensive. And then the commercial properties are all being redone as well. Those are usually larger meters as well. So what we try to do is the easy ones, go through the least amount of pain first, and then step it up from there when we know what's going on.
Okay. I think that's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Wanda.
Ellen Hessian. Pass? All right. You've done your good citizen work for today already, though. I mean that. Tim Kramer. You too. I mean it. Christina.
Hello again.
Hey.
On May 1st, we were marked safe from Empire Wind 1 pile driving. Yesterday, we were outraged with the Empire Wind 1 upstarting again. This move forward will devastate the New York Bight. We will continue to see the sea life carnage on our shores, and they will continue to say it's something else and not their fault, even though they state in their own documents that they will deafen or kill our marine life. Equinor, a foreign oil and gas company owned by the government of Norway, will destroy our shoreline with an energy source that can never meet the demand to get to net zero. And then in doing so, our energy rates will skyrocket. Currently, we pay a strike price of $36, and Hochul sold Equinor a strike price of $155 per kilowatt hour. You can do the math. And that's not including Propel New York cables and BESS. I'd like to take a moment to reiterate that there are three intentionally segmented branches of this disastrous energy scam. First, we have the turbines, which everybody knows about because they're so visible. But nobody's talking about the horrible, life-threatening infrastructure that is slated for construction all over Long Island, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. These turbines cannot survive or transport energy without putting the health and safety of our residents at risk. Those high-voltage cancer cables are permitted to have 200 milligauss of EMF radiation exposure to the areas that they are buried in 24 hours a day. Propel New York is following New York state guidelines, but the state guidelines don't care about residents' health and safety. The state cares about making money and taking all of your money. Most residential communities have no clue what's coming their way, and people will never have any idea they are standing on top of these cables when they are shopping and walking their children to school, raising the cancer and leukemia rates all over Long Island once again. And where will these high voltage cables lead to? BESS, you got it, battery energy storage systems that are slated to be built all over Long Island, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. One needs not to go any further than to check out what happened at the Vistra BESS in Moss Landing, California. These battery energy storage systems are slated to be built in residential communities. Staten Island is getting 52 of them on a 13-mile island. When they go on fire, and I mean when, they can't be put out and they will emit horrible toxic metals into the surrounding communities for miles and miles. This will lead to contamination of our agriculture, animals, water, and land, our drinking water. What they are doing to New York is beyond reprehensible, all in the name of making money from a green energy climate scam. BESS are 24-hour-a-day energy vending machines, but they buy energy from the grid when the energy is low, and they sell it back at peak times at the highest rates for the taxpayers. I'm almost finished. I'm wrapping up. We're keeping the faith that there's a bigger plan in store to stop this another way through halting subsidies, tariffs, or breaking that 1992 climate treaty under Bush. We're just a volunteer community group that's trying to defend ourselves and protect our communities. This boondoggle will set us back decades, maybe centuries. Shame on anybody that let this happen, and how dare anyone sell our public utilities to foreign governments with turbines and batteries made by other foreign governments that are seeking to destroy our way of life. Whatever happened to America First? We blame Ron Walsh and the previous administration for letting these devils in the door here in Long Beach. Thank goodness the route was in front of my home because I stepped into action, or Empire One too would be digging up our streets. So now we have Empire One moving ahead. Mike, I heard you're striking up a bill to ban BEST, but why not take it a step further? Is it possible to add a ban of 345 kilovolt cables in residential communities? Also, the City Council has an intimate relationship with the next level of elected officials. We need to hear your outrage about Empire One. We need you to be outspoken about Empire One. If there was lobbying for Empire One, you can certainly lobby against it. It'll be just like Nantucket with BPA and fiberglass washing up on our shores. Is Nassau County going to work together with the city to sue Boehm over Empire, because we'll be paying to clean up our beach when the blades break, just like Nantucket? They're still waiting. That's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina. As you know, I agree with just about everything you said there, and I think probably everybody here does as well up here, but I'm not going to speak for them. We remain steadfast against any incursion with cables, wires, or some sort of transmission lines in Long Beach. We spoke with our outside counsel today about it. Dan brought up the idea of a good neighbor caveat, agreement. So, yeah, there's quite a few things that have to be dealt with, and that was a shock to the system. But once again, you're never home free until you're home, right? So, sorry about that. We will make a statement as well. James Hodge.
No pass. James Hodge, 95 East Fulton Street here in this great city. Just wanted to say that I appreciate everything our police commissioner is doing. And also, let me say this first, that just because you're doing good with someone, never put out to them just because they have something to say about something's going on. Like I was talking about what's going on in MLK. I would say to you, don't throw out in the face, this is what we did, this is what we did. Everybody that sees this know that I come and thank you all the time for all you do. And I'm just saying that, so you threw that in my face. So let me go back to the commissioner. I'd like to thank the commissioner for everything that he's doing. He is a really great commissioner and a great friend. But even a friend understands that we all hold each other accountable. In Long Beach Police Department, I believe it was started in 1911, it has only had about 4 or 5 paid African-American police officers in the history of Long Beach. First was in 1968, Murkison, Simon, and Edwards. And then 40 years later, I believe around that time in 2008, we pushed and we got 2 more African-American officers, because diversity means a lot. It shows the community, it shows that we are including everyone, not just because of your culture or your race, but it shows that when you take a test and you have hundreds of people at bracket 90 or bracket 100, we're looking to say we want our police department to reflect our city. And our city currently has not hired a black police officer in 17 years. And so currently about 80 officers now, there's no black police officers. And the commissioner is going to do what he can, and I'm going to work with the city. How am I going to work? As a resident. When the test comes out, I'm going to push people to take the test from all over the county, the city, the state, wherever. Because I believe children seeing someone who reflects them and look like them, it means a lot. You were a police officer, Finn. Also, DeCranis was a police officer. Our deputy city manager was a great commissioner. Call him Uncle Phil. And our current commissioner, who's very active and engaged in the community. So I encourage you and push you to please. I mean, we have a lot of departments that don't reflect our community. Our planning advisory. There's one lady and I have no problem with white men, but the city is more than just white men. It has a lot of women. It has a white men, black men, Indians, Guyanese, Asian. It has everybody. And our city should reflect, when you get a chance to pick and you look, what I'm saying is everybody see a rainbow and they say, oh, it's wonderful. It's got everything in there, like Baskin Robbins and this and that, whatever. And so I'm saying to you that when you're picking, just like everybody got a little extra 10 seconds, when you're picking, please, diversity, you can look it up. It means a lot to the people that you're serving and the people that you are providing services for. It's never been, since 1902, it's never been a paid black fireman in the history of Long Beach. If it is, let me know. I would like to know, because we never celebrated that history. And when you look it up, I know we have volunteers, but we never had paid.
Chief.
He's not paid. Chief is not paid. He was the first black. And so I just say to you, I was the first African-American paid animal warden in the history of Long Beach. And so, and that became, after I became animal warden, then they had a test to try to get me out, and I got the highest on the test. And so I say to you, Finn, and I say to anybody that's in those seats, I may go with whatever side I want to go with before the election, but when you're there, as a community representative, I do what I can to work on behalf of things that the community need. And so, Dan, I thank you for the park, $700,000 that's coming to that park. And Joe Fabrizio, and it was the last administration that started it. So again, I thank you, and I'll give you your thank yous. Thank you. But I come to be able to, again, advocate on behalf of the community, and the police department and every department, as much as possible, should reflect our whole city.
Karen Riskin, come on down.
Hi.
Hi. How
Good
are you,
evening,
Karen?
everybody. I've lived in Long Beach for 38 years, and I've loved every minute of it until this whole situation arose. But I'm asking you everybody to please send a letter to the federal government reminding them of the research to prove how unworthy Equinor and Empire Wind is, and are that to Long Beach and to all of Long Island. We need you to help now before you know it. They will destroy our beloved Long Beach, the ocean, the beach, the community, the commerce, and everything special to everybody. Everybody's got a little special place in Long Beach that's their go-to place. The beach, for a walk on the boardwalk, or just a walk through town. That's not going to be there, because when they start working, they're going to rip up our town. And I would appreciate if everybody would write a letter, and I would love a CC, if you could send me a copy so I can have it. I'm making a book for everything that's going on, and I'd like to add your letters into it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your advocacy. That's our last contestant for the evening. I just want to say before we leave, I say sometimes, quite often, that we're very fortunate as a city to have Dan Creighton as a city manager. He works incredibly hard. He's dealt with some issues lately, and it didn't stop him from working. He worked very hard on his budget with Ina, who always worked for the city, another great resource for the city. So thank you for what you guys did. Thank you, everybody, and good night. Thank you.
I'm sorry, one more thing.
Making me blush.
I just want to hand.
I'll come talk to you. I'm sorry.
It's all right. I was going to hand.
I'll come around.